Welcome on in to the Central Committee stream with your host, Mike from PA. We are live once again on the Central Committee stream. It is September 29th, 2025. We are in the final waning days of September. Our opportunity to seize money from Valorant to support our radical leftist politics. 2 days remain. Let us seize as much money as we can from American corporations to fund our radical leftist politics. This is random, but yesterday I saw one battle after another. It's amazing. I went into it not knowing it's such a leftist film. Can't recommend enough. Oh, interesting. Okay. I'll have to check it out. That's another Leo production, right? 70 months for Non-Gloria, 5-year subscriber. Look at that. Chat, Non-Gloria is proof that you can turn the biggest troll into your biggest simp. That's true. That's true flex. Thank you for your service, Non-Gloria. Also, Inglourious Bastards is back on Netflix. Oh, okay, cool. The troll to simp pipeline. That's what we do here. I finished Andor season 1. What took you so long? I have not slept enough, so my brain is mushy enough to believe all your BS and more. That's good. Hello, everybody. Your Steelers conquered Ireland. Yeah, I know. I saw that. How are the Steelers doing? They're 2-1, right? Oh, 3-1. I haven't been watching any football this year. I mean, beating the Jets, hilarious. Beating the Patriots, awesome. Beating the Vikings, not bad. Not bad. And then we're going to pummel the Browns. Can't wait. Guys, did you know there was a period of time where the Browns never lost to the Steelers? Did you guys know that? It's a period of time when the Browns gave up, destroyed their own name, moved to Baltimore, and changed their names to the Ravens. That was the only time, the Cleveland had any respite from the constant humiliations. Non-Gloria says, Mike, I was listening to the Ezra Klein and the Nahisi Coates debate over Ezra's hagiography of Charlie Kirk in the New York Times, and I have to say that Ezra is a complete charlatan with nothing of value to say. He's best described as director of moving the deck chairs on the Democratic Party Titanic. Wow. Really well written, Non-Gloria. Where did you get... I know for a fact, I've talked to you. You have no idea what a hagiography is. So where did you get that? Where'd you get that post from? My brain? This motherfucker stole my tweet. AI. No, it's not an AI message. It was directly written from me on the fucking toilet. Have you listened to New Blowback? No. China took L's on the Khmer Rouge? Yes. Yes. The reason why the United States of America opened up to China is they saw China started supporting the US against the Soviet Union a couple times. And by the way, China was totally wrong every single time. Every time that China disagreed with the Soviet Union on foreign policy, China was wrong. However, because the United States was eager to position China against the Soviet Union, it allowed the reform and opening up and China access to international trade, which we're now in a situation that never existed with the Soviet Union. At its peak, I think China was like over 30% of U.S. Trade. Okay, it's come down since then, since the decoupling has begun. But the Soviet Union was never more than 1% of U.S. trade. So if you look at the way China has positioned, the United States has tried to treat China like it did the Soviet Union, and it's failing completely, which is bloc against bloc. You know, the Soviet bloc versus the Western bloc and its and its colonies. And the Soviet Union was way poorer. The Soviet bloc was way poorer, way more war torn, and just had a permanent handicap that could never quite overcome. While the U.S. and the West had access to the world resources and trade. So the Chinese have managed to avoid that kind of logic of bloc against bloc. Now, maybe that will happen. Maybe bloc against bloc will happen anyway. But right now, China is trying to create kind of an alternative where it's like, if you want to have bloc politics and great power competition and war and domination, that's the United States. If you want to have equality, if you want to have trade, if you want to raise your standard of living, if you want fair deals, that's us. And I feel like you know, but at the same time, China is kind of positioning a block, a counter block to the United States, you know, it may be forced into, which is much stronger. Did you see Trump threaten Zohran in New York City this morning? Yes. Okay, so what are we going to talk about today, chat? The GOAT made an episode on Netanyahu. John Oliver. Mike was right. Mike is vindicated once again. Mike is vindicated once a fucking again. John Oliver made a video about Benjamin Netanyahu. I can't wait. Let's see how I hope it's really good. The only good late night host, but he's not really a late night host, chat. He is a once a week political show with some comedy in it. He's like the boomer version of Chapo, okay? Extremely good, but super lazy. Super lazy. It has the aesthetics of late night, the work ethic of Chapo Trap House. Honestly, Chapo has more of a work ethic than they do. You know what? I take it back. Chapo Trap House works harder. Like on it, like much harder. What am I even saying? Chapo is the boomer. Chapo is almost the boomer Chapo. No, Chapo is the millennial Chapo. The problem is that the younger generations don't have any good content. And I mean that. Like, I know I'm a millennial and I have my own taste. But like, you guys, like the Zoomers and the Alphas don't have any good content, bro. Like, their content sucks. Legitimately, it's bad. Like, who are the like big lefty Gen Alpha / Zoomer, like young Zoomers? They got nothing. Hassan is, sorry guys, Hassan is millennial and old Gen Z. Overzealots, I bet you Overzealots is young, but he gives millennial. I'm sorry Overzealots, I love you. That's a compliment because I am a millennial. But Hassan is old millennial. No, that's me. I'm old millennial / Gen X. Like young Gen X, old millennial. That's me. Hassan is young millennial and old Gen Z. Liv Agar. Okay. Yes. I Show Speed. See, I Show Speed really isn't political. He's just like not conservative. He's like left adjacent. You know what I mean? Like Speed is not like heavily political. The all gas no brakes guy. Oh no. Connor eats pants. Okay, now isn't Connor kind of millennial coded too? I mean, maybe I just think if I like them, they're kind of millennial coded. Dean Withers. Exactly my point. More people have heard I Show Speed say free Palestine than you. What he says goes far and wide. Well, of course that's true. I'm not insulting Speed. I'm just saying he's not a political content creator. I'm just being accurate. He says some political things and he's thoughtful and he doesn't like do anti-left content. And he was really nice about China. Like, these are all things we like, but that's different from being a left-wing content creator.
Here is to determine what Trump is talking about.
Okay. Yeah, what is Trump talking about here?
Bringing the jobs back, I'm just going to assume.
Possible.
Bad deal. Should have never been thought of.
There's one.
There's one.
The guys like Aaron Parnas and Dean Withers, those are actually boomer content creators. See, like all of the Olivia Juliana, the Dean Withers, those guys, Aaron Parnas, those guys are for MSNBC people. Like, they are for Gen X and older, maybe some really old millennials, like the oldest millennials, like myself. That's who that's for. It's not for young people. You're wrong. They're not for young people. They're not for young people. They are for convincing older people who still want to be hip that there are young people who agree with their boring, warmed over MSNBC politics. That's actually what Charlie Kirk was. The thing is, that's actually what's funny enough. That is what Charlie Kirk started as. Charlie Kirk started as, oh, you want the youngs to like your boomer conservative politics? Well, then give me money and I'm going to go around trolling the youths at the college campuses. Charlie Kirk didn't really start cooking with younger generations until other factors made younger generations more open to conservative politics. And then he was on places like TikTok and they started to build up, the young conservative movement had a place. He was originally started in the same way as Dean Withers, which is taking money from old people to convince them there's a bunch of young people that agree with them when there aren't. God, I hope there aren't. Charlie Kirk was for Gen X who couldn't figure out how to get Fox News playing on their phones but had TikTok. But yes. Mike, you never mentioned Gatsu. Gatsu's pretty good. But again, he's like Georgian. Big news. If you subscribe right now, you unlock the rewind feature for the stream. Wait, really? I didn't even know about this. Oh my God. As a channel subscriber, you could pause and rewind the stream to catch up on any missed moments. Oh my God. We're getting 5-year-old YouTube skill. Let's go, Twitch. What an upgrade. But say thank you. All right. So what are we talking about today? We've got ourselves Netanyahu video from John Oliver. Eric Adams drops out of the New York mayor's race. He can't win. The donors told him to drop out. He waited until he was still on the ballot, and they can't remove his name from the ballot anymore, but he's still on there. So my kind of guess is that Eric Adams, he's trying to set himself up for the future by dropping out, while at the same time trying to sabotage Cuomo, which is good for us. But it's also exactly in line with what I said. Democrats are going to work with Republicans to try to stop mild social democracy. You have to understand something, chat, is that the centrists and the far right in this country are dedicated to one joint project: destroying the left. That's what motivates our political class. That's what motivates our donor class. They all agree that the left should be stopped. That's it. And they cooperate very, very seamlessly on that point. Centrists, because they think, well, if we make it... There is actually a clip that I want to show you that explains our politics completely. I try to make, whatever we were talking about politics, this explains it all. It's 4 minutes long from the dearly departed David Graeber, which is probably one of the smartest anarchists to ever live.
The kind of politics we have now, where the left is represented by this kind of Obama-Macron-style centrism, where you're both for the market and for bureaucracy at the same time. It's kind of horrible, right? The only possible appeal of that kind of politics is, well, at least they're not Nazis, right? So what they want is the left to be this kind of mishmash of bureaucratic market centrism, and the right to be outright fascist. To set the ball rolling in an actual left direction will make that centrism look like utterly unappealing. In France, sometimes they talk about the extreme center, and I think that's a fitting phrase. It strikes me that what's called the moderates are the most immoderate people possible. And the reason why they're so uncompromising, I think, is because they realize they don't have a lot of positive arguments. They're not really for anything. I mean, somebody like Obama, the reason he worked was because he looked like the kind of guy who would have a vision. He acted like a visionary. He had the intonation. He had the way of standing and looking into the distance like he really believed in something. And it shows you something about just how much visionary politics has been killed. It didn't even seem to occur to people to ask what his vision actually was, right? Because it turns out, insofar as he had a vision, his vision was not to have a vision. He believed in pragmatism and compromise and so forth. And that's what the center has been reduced to. It's become this pure set of performative symbols. And at the same time, you get to feel morally superior, which is ultimately what liberal centrism is all about, is the ability to feel better than other people. So there is a kind of a symbiosis whereby the right wing pretend to be stupid, like George Bush II sort of perfected this, like I'll act like a yokel. All of the liberals will make fun of me as an idiot. Everybody who resents the sort of cultural elite for having monopolized all the good jobs will look at them sneering at me and say, yeah, I bet those guys feel the same way about me as they feel about Bush. I'll vote for Bush. Ha ha ha, stick it to him, right? That shtick, Trump is just doing it in a more extreme version of the same thing. Johnson's doing the same thing. You act like an idiot, the people who are sort of educated elite make fun of you, and it works. Now, who's really the idiot, right? People keep falling for the same stupid trick over and over and over again. So there's a symbiotic relationship between these centrists, who are just sort of sneering elitists, and these guys who are the scam artists who pretend to be yokels, who pretend to be idiots, or pretend to be fascists. They're not even real fascists. They're kind of phony fascists. They are trying to set up a situation where those are the only two viable political choices, because they both feed off and complement one another.
And that's it. That's it. Like, And they're committed to it. It's not an accident. It's not like, oh, well, you know, the extreme center and the extreme right, like this kind of symbiosis randomly cooked up. No, this is intentional. And the extreme center is so much closer politically to the far right than they are to even a moderate left. Like there is here's the far right. Here's Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and here's like mild social democracy, not leftism, mild social democracy of like 1950 social democracy. Okay, they're here, and it's not to say that mild social democracy is far left. No, the Democratic Party has driven itself so far to the right that it can't even conceptualize being even a left of center party anymore. It is a right-wing party. I think it is fair to call the Democratic Party a center-right party. If you actually look at political science, they are a market fundamentalist party. And at the most, they want tax credits and inducements to try to make the market do X, Y, and Z thing. They don't believe in government action, direct government action. It's a worship of private bureaucracy. And like, I don't know how to fix it because there's a lot of people in the Democratic Party who think the Democratic Party is the party of the New Deal or the party of the Great Society. No, all of that's gone. Okay? That's gone. The only thing that's left of the Democratic Party is the party of anti-communism and anti-leftism. That's it. The only part of the party that remains is the anti-socialism and the anti-communism. That's why they have, they have Abigail Spanberger and Alyssa Slotkin, CIA Democrats. How many CIA agents are there in this country? And yet the Democratic Party keeps fighting them to run for fucking Senate and governor. It's incredible how this very small pool of the population is constantly fighting women who want to be Democrats.
This, right? They think that Adams needs to drop out to give him a shot. But let's be clear. The calendar is what the calendar is. We're just like 5 weeks away. He's running out of time.
Yeah, Mondami is still a clear front runner. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I believe Mondami is really dangerous.
Did you see Austin Show is interviewing? He's not interviewing Kamala. Austin Show is not interviewing Kamala. Calm down. Also, can I just say this? If you're a person who's trying to cancel Austin Show, fuck off forever. Fuck off forever. We don't like you. We don't like you here. We don't like you here. There is a certain type of person on the radical center who is not a leftist, is not a socialist, but they try to play act as radical by being inquisitorial. And what I mean by that is they want to say that anybody who's ever made a mistake can never be forgiven. Anybody who's ever like said, hey, I did something that was fucked up and I grew up and I realized it was wrong. And so I would like to make amends and go forward as a better person. There is an inquisitorial type of person who wants to never let that exist because they have nothing else to say, because they are fucking worthless. They're not even on the left. The left believes in redemption. The left believes in change. The left believes in rehabilitation. If you're the type of person who says so-and-so is irredeemable because they made bad jokes a decade ago, you're a fucking weirdo. I don't want you around me. Now, what I love about Austin is not only has he apologized for things that he did in the past that were bad, Austin has gone out of his way to evolve on politics as well. This is what I love about Austin the most. He could have been an MSNBC lib, but he tried to engage with politics as a serious intellectual exercise. He made analysis, he made predictions, and then when those predictions were not correct, when his analysis was not correct, he went and looked for the people that were right, and he started to change his mind. Do you know how intelligent you have to be like that? Do you know how intelligent you need to be to like take a position, make arguments for it, and then when proven wrong by empirical testing, change your mind? That is the highest form of intelligence. That is the rarest form of intelligence. It takes emotional maturity. It takes intelligence. It takes awareness. It takes humility. That is the rarest form of intelligence. It's rarer than diamonds and gold. You know, he's not a liberal because when he's proven wrong, he doesn't double down and lash out at others. He's a real one. Exactly. That's why Ezra Klein is a fucking moron. Ezra Klein is a complete dipshit. Ezra Klein is the lowest form of life on earth. Anybody who's saying you should have voted for Kamala is dumb as fuck. You know, Kamala Harris could have owned me. Kamala Harris could have fucking owned my ass. She could have come out with her book and been like, you know what? I was going to change my position on Gaza. I thought I couldn't run on it. And I tried to give dog whistles out, but people just didn't hear me. Benjamin Netanyahu is an authoritarian, and the Israel lobby is damaging our politics. And I think we need a ceasefire now because there's a genocide going on in Gaza. If she came out and did that, I would be so fucking owned. I would be so fucking owned. I would be like, well, I was wrong about her. She was right. You know, people who said she's hiding her power level were right. Damn it. I could have been so fucking owned, and everybody would have loved her. Everybody would have been like, oh, Mamala, oh no. But she's so politically stupid. She's so worthless and cowardly that she can't even take that easy win. She's dumb. Did you see Cori Bush is running to take back her seat? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Austin is meeting Kamala today. Guys, I want you to know something else, chat. I know for a fact that if Austin Show gets in a room with Kamala Harris, if he goes to a book tour or whatever, he's going to say, we need you to speak out more on Gaza, because that's who he is. He will absolutely, if he ever gets in a room with Kamala Harris and it meets her, is he will be based as hell. What value is there to meet with Kamala after she lost? She is a prominent Democrat. So is Hillary Clinton. If you have the opportunity to yell at them, you take it. How do you keep positive in this environment? The environment of the vast majority of the country hating Donald Trump? The environment of me being proven right about the Democratic Party elite and the Democratic Party leadership being dog shit and we needing to go far left? Well, how do I stay positive when everybody is like agreeing that Mike was right and that we need to do what he says and we need to run to the left? How do I keep positive in an environment when I just raised $20,000 for a Democratic Socialist candidate for Wisconsin governor who now has over 500 volunteers? How do I keep positive when I'm just proven right about every political prediction I fucking make, including AOC running for president 2024? How do I keep positive when I just keep winning? When all my enemies are smote before me? Has been going to tech toad or off the platform, licking their fucking wounds? How do I keep positive when H3H3 is apologizing like a worm on his knees? How do I keep positive when I do nothing but win? Easy. Are you tired of winning yet? Buckle up. It's just begun. We're gonna never stop winning. I keep positive by looking at the polls. Capitalism is out and socialism is in. The movement is gaining popularity among Democrats, a left-leaning group found. The socialist brand is on the rise. Democratic voters prefer socialist-aligned figures like Bernie, AOC, and Zohran Mamdani to establishment politicians like Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, and Nancy Pelosi. Democratic voters view elected officials who describe themselves as Democratic Socialists about as positively as those who identify as Democrats. And they prefer Democratic Socialism to capitalism when written definitions of each are read aloud to them. What the mainstream of the party wants is both Democratic Socialism as a value system and Democratic Socialist politicians. Although Democratic voters are warming to socialism, the ideology is toxic to most Republicans and many independents, making it difficult for socialists to win in battlegrounds. This is not true. This is absolutely not true. Any ideology is toxic to and by the way, many independents are just Republicans. 45% of the country are just Republicans, okay? Now, we don't need 40. We don't need to get 60% to win. We need 50% to win, okay? That's it. The other thing is, many independents will actually start coming toward the Democratic Party. That's the thing. You'll get the Republican Party base of 35% is going to be a hard nut to crack, but we don't need to. If we get 70% of the vote, who gives a fuck? Okay? Who gives a fuck? All right, let's see. Can I see this poll? Does anyone have this poll? Okay, let's look at it. No, this is Gallup. This isn't it. Does anyone have this actual data? Oh God, run for something. Thanks for your energy this morning. I was feeling very pessimistic. I need your word and energy. Okay. Here's what you need to understand, chat. This is what's happening in this moment. I want to explain to you what's happening in this moment. Everybody understands. Everybody understands that politics is like the centrist Democratic Party is bankrupt. Everybody gets it. Nobody's confused. Even libs. The problem is now these libs. I've been thinking a lot about how I get in front of more libs and how to present myself and what to argue, because I feel like this is a moment where so many people are asking, what do I do? Who do you support? What do you want to like? So a lot of leftists are they're not used to answering that question because they don't fucking know. Okay, I do. And so when normal people are reaching out to leftists, like, okay, you have a really I agree with you. Your analysis is good. I think your understanding of the world is good. Now what do? They don't have a fucking answer. And then that's why people flock to Gavin Newsom desperately, because he does one thing to counter the right wing. Okay? Like, what we need is places for that energy to be plugged in. Trump announces 100% tariff on foreign-made movies. Jaeger Larson has gifted 69 subs, which means Valorant has gifted 18. Did you guys forget that every time you gift at least 5 subs, right, Valorant is forced to give one as well? And by gifting 69 subs, you have forced Valorant to gift an unbelievable 18. Thank you. And we got extras because 69 divided by 5 is 13.8. So we actually got 4.2 extra subs. So it was 69,420. It was 69,420. Let's go. Did you see iShow Speed almost died? What happened? Red Edge Planet, thank you for the 5 as well. And forcing Valorant to gift. I hate Midas Touch. I think Midas Touch is absolutely one of the worst content creators on the entire internet. I think they suck shit. You can tell I don't like them because I never watch them.
Dangerous post last night. Last night he posted a fictional Fox News report in which an AI version of himself an existent policy of giving every American a, quote, free medbed card to give them guaranteed access to imaginary hospitals in which they can be returned to full health by imaginary magical medbeds. This is a conspiracy theory spread on the far right. It's a big QAnon thing. So here's a screenshot from the video. You can see the AI Lara Trump and AI Donald Trump telling the American people that they were going to get access to this cure-all technology. This is like a huge thing in the QAnon world. They actually think that JFK, after he was shot, was able to go into one of these med beds, actually restore to full health, and is now living a healthy life somewhere in the world. And this is just really demented and screwed up. I fully agree with what this poster said, who wrote, "It's not funny. The medbed stuff is terribly sad. So many people who are dying or watching a loved one fade away, excited that Trump will finally release all the hidden cures and save them in time. Hang around QAnon-type spaces and you'll see them posting. It's heartbreaking." And if you looked at the comments of Trump's post on Truth Social, you did see a lot of these QAnon types talking about how excited they were that they were finally going to be cured of their cancer, or that their relatives were finally going to be cured of their disease. So evil. And so after the post was up all night into this morning, Trump finally deleted it this morning, but the damage has been done. Let me show you this clip just so you see I'm not making...
Can I just say, like, god damn, Donald Trump is such a fucking moron, man. Red Edge Planet, thank you for the 5 as well. He's such a fucking moron, dude. He's such a moron. Did everybody bend the knee to Jaeger Larson? Did everyone bend the knee to Jaeger Larson for the 69 gifties? Like, come on. What a king. Donald Trump is such a fucking dipshit, dude. Like, I know it's very cringe and millennial of me to say that, but like, come on. What else is there to say? He's such a fucking idiot.
And for all the news, remember to add the Midas Touch podcast on Apple Podcasts and Fi. Okay, watch that.
Breaking now. President Donald J. Trump has announced a historic new healthcare system. The launch of America's first medbed hospitals and a national medbed card for every citizen.
Every American will soon receive their own medbed card. With it, you'll have guaranteed access to our new hospitals led by the top doctors in the nation, equipped with the most advanced technology in the world. These facilities are safe, modern, and designed to restore every citizen to full health and strength. This is the beginning of a new era in American healthcare.
In this first phase,
Jaeger Larson gave 58 subs and got 15 gifted. Okay, so 58 divided by 5 is 11 point. So you got an extra 3.4 bonus subs. Look at that. Jaeger Larson rolling high.
Only a limited number of MedBed cards will be released. Registration details will be announced very soon.
Okay, chat. I Show Speed was almost killed. I Show Speed was almost killed. Literally, he was almost killed.
Because I know I'm not the only one that's seen this. Yo, bro. Speed, bro. Come on, dude. Like, what the fuck? Hell no. No. Like, bro, you could have...
It's apparently an idiot with video compression. Okay.
No.
Okay. I mean, that's an unfortunate couple pixels then. It kind of looks like the carabiners bending. But that could be true. That could be true. Honestly, I don't know enough about video compression to say. I do an insane RFK Jr. impression. My wife dies every time, but I can't do it in public. I don't think anybody knows RFK Jr. enough anymore. He died like 20 fucking years ago. It was longer than that. When did RFK Jr. die? It was like 1990. I'm an idiot. I thought you meant John F. Kennedy Jr., not RFK. RFK Jr., the idiot. I'm sorry, guys. My brain melted. I thought he was referring to JFK Jr., not RFK. In my mind, RFK Jr. is not even a human being anymore. God, I'm such an idiot. Thank you for... Okay, I had a brain melt. I had a brainworm moment. RFK Jr. is like... God, the Kennedys really are inbred, aren't they? Why is watching TikTok on your computer so fucking annoying?
If you pass out now, they're going to use your heart, and they're going to give it to Dick Cheney. His heart pumping now is already from a little Guatemalan boy. Oh my God, you took too much. Did you eat the shrimp? Did you eat the radioactive shrimp? Oh my God. How much did you take? How much did you take? I'm going to give it to Dick Cheney. My God, how much did you take? How much did you take? I'm just kidding. There's no monsters. There's no monsters. It's just the drugs kicking in. It's just the... Did you hear that? I think it's the police. I got the police. Just kidding. The police aren't here. But wouldn't that be funny if we were both tripping and the police showed up?
Holy fucking hell, dude. Okay, let's get into some real shit. Eric Adams is dropping out of the race. Made me laugh my fucking ass off. Look at this shit. 4 years ago, Nate Silver was calling this man the next Democratic nominee, and in the short time since, he's been utterly crushed by a surging movement in NYC, socialist movement in NYC, that will soon spread all over this nation. Get with the program or end your life as a disgrace, like this parasite. Who agrees with me?
Nearly 4 years ago, Gracie Mansion became my home. Who would have thought that a kid from South Jamaica, Queens, growing up with learning disabilities, could one day become the mayor of the greatest city in the world? I cannot thank my mother enough for instilling in me the values she lived by. I hope every parent can use my life as an example for their child during challenging moments.
If I were using Eric Adams as an example for my children, it would be, if you're gonna take a bribe, make it worth it.
Only in America can a story like this be told. When I was elected to serve as your mayor, I said these words: this campaign was never about me. It was about the people of this city, from every neighborhood and background, who had been left behind and believed they would never catch up. This campaign was for the underserved, the marginalized, the abandoned, and betrayed by government. Since then, it has been my honor to be your mayor, and I'm proud to say that we took that victory 4 years ago and turned it into action, making this city better for those who have been failed by government. I felt immense pride serving you every day, and look at what we accomplished together. We built more housing in one term than any administration before us and removed barriers to build even more. We drove crime down so far that this year we are on track to have fewer shootings and murders than at any point in our city's history. We raised test scores and attendance through bold education reforms. We made record investments that fueled our economy and drove employment to all-time highs. And we lowered costs for working and low-income families, expanding funding for rental vouchers, childcare, and household costs, while eliminating the income tax burden for more than 500,000 New Yorkers. Even so, I know many New Yorkers have yet to feel the full impact of these historic achievements. I know many are still worried about affordability, about safety, and their future here. But trust me when I
He means I raised the rent as fast as the landlords wanted me to.
Tell you.
What did the Trump admin bribe him with? They pardoned his ass so he wouldn't go to federal prison for taking bribes. That's what they paid him with. Avoiding prison.
What we've started will continue to reach every community in this city. It's not always easy to see the impact of good policy in just 3 years. I also know some remain unsure of me after the unfortunate events surrounding my federal case. I was wrongfully charged because I fought for this city. And if I had to do it again, I would fight for New York again. And yet, despite all we've achieved, I cannot continue my re-election.
Yeah, guys, Joe Biden, he really hated Eric Adams' politics. He really, Joe Biden was like, oh, please don't be a corporate centrist. No, don't sell out to all your donors. No, that was Joe Biden, famously anti-corrupt guy. The famously anti-corrupt guy.
Campaign, the constant media speculation about my future, and the campaign finance board's decision to withhold millions of dollars have undermined my ability to raise the funds.
Yeah, you didn't follow the rules and turn your paperwork up on time, bro. Like, come on.
Needed for a serious campaign. I hope that over time, New Yorkers will see this city thrive under our leadership, and that policies we put in place should be continued and expanded. I hope you will see that despite the headlines and innuendo,
I would guess that somewhere between 60 and 75% of this vote will go to Cuomo. That's what I would guess. But that's not enough to like make a dent really in the lead. Because like if you're voting for Eric Adams, like come on, like you're not the brightest tool in the shed.
I always put you before me, always. I'm proud of the historic leadership team we built, appointing the first Dominican, Indian, and Filipino deputy mayors, the first woman.
Can we just stop? Can we just stop with this? Like, come on. Like, does every job have like a secret leaderboard? We appointed the first half Scottish, half German, 1/8 Italian. So 3/4 German, 3/8 German, 1/8 Italian, half Scottish. Like, come on. Can we just stop with this already? Like, I get it. Breaking the glass ceiling for president or senator or governor, that's huge. Everything, every job, we have to have like a secret leaderboard by race? Like, come on. What is this?
To serve as fire commissioner and police commissioner, the first Korean commissioner at Small Business Services, the first Spanish speaker to lead the NYPD and DOT, and the first Jewish woman to head the NYPD.
My point is, like, you could see how easily right-wingers can play this identity politics game because it's so vacuous and it means nothing. And it doesn't challenge the status quo at all. And it is just vacuous. It's vacuous.
Intelligence division. We built leadership that looks like New York. That mattered to me because at my core, I'm still Dorothy Adams' son, raised with the values she instilled in me, forged in my church and in my community. tested again and again in the fight for justice. Those values, working class values, will never allow me to betray my city.
Okay, chat. I was not aware of this clip.
I used to come out taking that long A train ride, you know, in the cold. You know, love is blind, man. You know, taking that long A train. I did not have a 2 times. I didn't have a. So yes, I did jump off with a turnstile. I'm not gonna.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is the essence of why America is a failing empire. This is the essence of why America is a failing empire, because we have the dumbest narcissists in the planet as our leaders. And if you are a mayor who believes that we should be super harsh against turnstile jumpers, right? Abuse them with cops while you yourself are a turnstile jumper. Do you not understand how fucking stupid you are? Like, have you considered maybe you're a dumb fuck?
It's over. The statute of limitation is over.
It's not funny. It's not funny. He's brutalizing people and criminalizing people that do the same thing he used to do. That's fucking insane. He has appeared to suggest holding office enhance his romantic prospects. As the state senator and borough president, I've had the opportunity to date some of the most attractive women in this city, Mr. Adams said at a 2015 graduation speech, discussing the importance of presentation. And I'm not taking you anywhere with me to a $500 dinner if you've got 2 tattoos on your neck saying "lick me." A spokesman, Evan Tynes, said the candidate had spoken and implying that he had dated widely as borough president, adding that Mr. Adams was in a committed relationship with Miss Collins. Can you imagine dating Eric Adams?
They have always guided me to ask and answer one simple question. How do I help those who need it most? Whoever follows me at City Hall must continue the work we started, lowering the cost of living, investing in quality of life, and staying laser focused on reducing crime and disorder through investments in policing, mental health, substance abuse care, homelessness services, and community-based initiatives. But I must also sound a warning. Extremism is growing in our politics. Our children are being radicalized to hate our city and our country. Political anger is turning into political violence. Too often, insidious forces use local government to advance divisive agendas with little regard for how it hurts everyday New Yorkers. Major change is welcome and necessary, but beware of those who claim the answer to destroy the very system we built together over generations. That is not change, that is chaos. Instead, I urge New Yorkers to choose leaders not by what they promise, but by what they have delivered. Although this is the end of my re-election campaign, it is not the end of my public service. I will continue to fight for this city, as I have for 40 years since the day I joined the NYPD, to make our streets safer and our systems fairer. The quest for justice is far from over. Inequality persists, innocents still suffer. New Yorkers deserve better every single day. And until the end of my term, I will fight for just that. We face the fallout of COVID, a surge in crime, an unprecedented migrant crisis, and economic devastation all at once. And together, we turn things around by listening to everyday people and providing solutions instead of speeches. That gives me hope. That gives us a roadmap to a better future. My fellow New Yorkers, this is your city. Its leaders work for you. I am one of you. My story is your story. I lived the struggle, but I never stopped loving this city. That is why I ran for mayor, to turn my pain into purpose. And I will keep fighting for the city, no matter what, from City Hall or beyond, because I am a New Yorker and fighting.
I mean, it's so funny to be, I'm sorry, chat, but like, you're not on the team, man. You're not on the fucking team. The Republicans are passing policies to make it legal, and it already came through the Supreme Court, to detain people based on how they look. Like, what do you mean? What the fuck are you talking about, dude? Imagine having this little shame. I mean, why wouldn't he? Why would he have shame? Politicians are like dogs. They respond to positive and negative reinforcement. And in Eric Adams' career, being a shameless, corrupt grifter has done nothing but raise him up higher and higher. So why wouldn't he keep doing it?
For our city, it's just what I do. Thank you. God bless New York.
I would tell Eric Adams to go to hell, but I never want to see him again. So I won't.
The Cuomo camp has wanted this, right? They think that Adams needs to drop out to give him a shot. But let's be clear. The calendar is what the calendar is. We're just like 5 weeks away. He's running out of time.
Yeah, Mamdani is still a clear front runner. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I believe Mamdani is really dangerous for New York. I think he's dangerous not only because what I've talked about in the past is he will not walk back the anti-Semitic tropes like all-wise Intifada. He's talked about defund the police. But the thing that doesn't get talked about, he has no experience. There's a $104 billion budget in New York. This guy has worked for 3 years in his life. I do not think he's qualified to run New York. I think New York.
He was already, he's a 3-term state rep. Do you really think Eric Adams is more intelligent and more capable of learning? Like, this is just nonsense. This is just babbling nonsense.
With the socialists in charge is dangerous. I think the real estate market's going to crater. I think we're going to be less safe. I really feel he's very, very dangerous for New York.
That would be awesome for all of us who are not real estate moguls. You know what I want? I'm sorry if you own a home, but I'm going to tell you the truth. You know what America needs? It needs a fucking real estate crash. It needs a real estate crash. Real estate needs to be cut in half as a minimum. If you look at current prices and you put a 50% discount on them, and then you put 0% interest rates, then housing costs start to look reasonable. And if you're like, but Mike, I own this home, you still get to stay in it. You still have a roof over your head. Stop crying. It won't do any good. Plus, you've got work to do.
That's from the bottom of my heart.
The Cuomo camp has wanted this, right? They think that.
All right, chat. Exclusive. Zohran Mamdani went on Democracy Now! See, this is why he's a king. You don't have to necessarily come on my stream, although you should, because coming on my stream is incredibly smart. At least start treating Democracy Now! Like, this is the legitimate left-wing news network.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Nermeen Sheikh.
New York Mayor Eric Adams has announced he's dropping out of the race just over a month before Election Day. In recent weeks, President Trump.
Dark Soul says, I bought my house for $160,000. It's now worth $430,000. Nothing has been done. What the fuck? Is that what you said? Hold on. Let me see what you... My home doubled. Am I okay with the crash? My 20-year-old son will never be able to afford a home at this rate. If you want to know, the people that are surviving in this economy have boomer parents who gave them down payments and help pay for their lives. There's two types of people. People that parents pay for their shit and give them a leg up in life, and the people that don't. And the people whose parents pay for their shit and give them a leg up in life are right wing or radical centrists. Everyone else is not. That's the reality. So if you're ever like seeing someone, they have a similar job than you, but yet they own their own home, or they have a really nice apartment and they have a new car, and you're like, what's fucking going on? The answer is their parents are paying for it. Not true. My parents were generous and I'm a leftist. You're rare.
Trump and New York business leaders pressured Adams to drop out of the race in an effort to help boost the campaign of disgraced former Governor Andrew Cuomo, who's running as an independent. Polls show Cuomo is well behind New York Assembly member Zohran Mamdani, the Democratic socialist who shocked the political establishment in June when he defeated Cuomo in the Democratic mayoral primary. There have been reports Adams might drop out ever since he met with one of President Trump's closest advisors, Steve Witkoff, in Florida earlier this month.
I had a roommate who complained about not being able to find a house for under $500K because his parents loaned him that much for a house. This was while the rest of us were hunting for rentals, and it was rough. My lord.
The New York Times reports President Trump has considered offering Mayor Adams and Republican mayoral candidate Curtis Sliwa positions in his administration to clear the field to help Cuomo, including in Adams' case, possibly making him ambassador to Saudi Arabia. Sliwa said recently he was even offered money to drop out. Well, today we're joined by the man President Trump does not want to become mayor of New York. That's right, Zohran Mamdani. He's in our studio to talk about this breaking news and more. Zohran Mamdani, welcome back to Democracy Now! It's great to have you with us. Respond. The significance of Adams dropping out of the race, does this surprise you?
You know, it is something that has been rumored for quite some time, that this would be the month, this would be the week, this would be the day, and today we've finally seen it. Yet it is also an encapsulation of so much of what has characterized Eric Adams' mayoralty, is decisions at the behest of Donald Trump and his billionaire donors and at the expense of working class New Yorkers. And what we see in this moment is very much what we saw the day we started this campaign on October 23rd. A necessity to finally stand up to the days of big money and small ideas being what characterizes City Hall, and instead delivering for the very working class New Yorkers that are being priced out of that same city.
Well, let's go to what Eric Adams had to say in a 9-minute video message announcing his decision to drop out. New York Mayor Eric Adams did not mention you, Zohran, or Andrew Cuomo by name, but he said this, which has been viewed as criticism of your campaign.
Major change is welcome and necessary, but beware of those who claim the answer to destroy the very system we built together over generations. That is not change.
Don't destroy the slave system, guys, because we built it together over generations. What?
That is chaos. Instead, I urge New Yorkers to choose leaders not by what they promise, but by what they have delivered.
So, Zohran, your response?
Well, you know, I am not surprised to hear any of these critiques or points from Eric Adams, because it is Eric Adams' mayoralty that has delivered us with a city where 1 in 4 New Yorkers are living in poverty. And in that same video, he diagnoses what the issues are that New Yorkers face. He speaks about the necessity of lowering costs, of improving quality of life, of keeping New Yorkers safe. And I don't contest the diagnosis. I contest his delivery, however. This is a mayor who raised the rent by 12% on more than 2 million New Yorkers, a mayor who priced New Yorkers further out of childcare, a mayor who has time and time again exacerbated a cost of living crisis, whether by raising the water bill or supporting Con Edison when they wanted to raise gas and electric. And so I wouldn't take advice on addressing that same crisis from the man who's been inflaming it time and time again.
Well, could you say, Zohran, what do you think the impact of his dropping out will have on your electoral prospects?
I think it's very much the same race. We have seen over the course of this race, especially in the final weeks and months of the primary, that Andrew Cuomo wanted nothing more than a one-on-one fight with me. And we gave him exactly that, and then we beat him by 13 points. And we continue to be just as confident. And yet what separates us from these other candidates is that we're not focused on them. We're focused on New Yorkers. New Yorkers deserve leadership that is thinking about how to benefit the people of the city. And too often politicians, be it Andrew Cuomo or Eric Adams, the meetings that they have or the phone calls with someone like Donald Trump, they're only speaking about themselves. It's time to actually think about New Yorkers.
So in the New York City mayoral race, the Republican nominee who's still in the race, Curtis Sliwa, says at least 7 wealthy individuals have offered him money to end his campaign. He says he's going to stay in the race. If you can talk about that, who you think these 7 wealthy individuals are, and are they the same people who are funding ads to the tune of millions of dollars against you?
Well, I can tell you there's no shortage of Trump donors who are seeking to influence this election, who are looking to spend more money than I would even tax them to try and stop our campaign. And at the same time, of Eric Adams, Andrew Cuomo, and Curtis Sliwa is the one that I would trust the most. And I do think it is very real that there are many who are threatened by our campaign and our politics of putting working people at the heart of this city's focus, and are trying to do everything in their power. And we've seen that with Donald Trump being on the phone with Andrew Cuomo, trying to do everything in his power to ensure that they stop this movement. And
guys, no, you know, we have to work with Trump to stop Trump. Centrist Democrats are the most ideologically extreme group in this country, and they have control of the Democratic Party. I want you to look at this, and I want you to understand something, chat. If we get into power, we need to be meaner than them. Like, I think we should be if somebody ever was a centrist, they should probably never be supported, ever. Honestly, like, ever.
The sad news for them is that they won't be able to.
Is this going to change your strategy in any way, where you now, it's gone from a 4-person race to a 3-person race? But of course, people are saying that with Eric Adams out of the race, it's much closer to a 2-person race, you and your leading opponent, Andrew Cuomo.
We will have the same focus as we've always had on working class New Yorkers, their struggle to afford this city, and also to be very clear with New Yorkers that the reason that Donald Trump is seeking to clear the lane for Andrew Cuomo.
Selah is exactly what you think a New York City Republican would be. He's exactly what a New York City Republican is.
Things I've heard for years. John Zippin, Curtis Lewa. Has a right. John Curtis. If anyone in America, all right, there's 2 people in America who stand out in my mind as great vigilantes. One is Anthony Imperiale, and the leading one, of course, is Curtis Lewa, the head of the Guardian Angels. What do you think of Mordecai and his group?
You speak of resistance, and Jerry mentioned it, Jews fighting back with weapons. The rabbi alluded to it. Mordecai mentioned it. But Mordecai, you're more. You provoke. We saw in that film, you sought out these people, beat them down like dogs. Absolutely. You were provoking a situation. You were as guilty as the KKK, Farrakhan's Muslims, provokers of hate. We've gone beyond that. This is the difference, Mort. You see next to me an Arab American. He supports the Intifada. He disagrees with Jewish Americans who are part of the Guardian Angels. They debate. But when it comes to protecting synagogues or mosques or people in need, they put aside their differences, no weapons, no violence, and protect everybody equally. It's the answer.
This is what John's calling for.
He's such a 90s New York Republican. It's so funny.
Cuomo is because he knows that Andrew Cuomo will clear their lane for Donald Trump's agenda. There is a reality to the fact that it takes 2 to tango, and these are the 2 people that are so often on New Yorkers' minds as an example of the politics we have to leave in the past.
Well, indeed, Zohran, your entire platform has focused principally on affordability and, as you said, helping the working class. But what appeared surprising to some in the Democratic primary is that Cuomo had a double-digit lead over you in low-income neighborhoods. So how do you explain that, and what are you doing to assuage whatever the concerns of this constituency are?
You know, when I started this race, and I was here on the first day of the campaign, I was also here on primary day, and I'm very happy to be back. I spoke about the fact that I was a state assembly member who at that time was polling, let's say 1%, and that's being charitable to me. That's rounding up. And I think for much of the campaign, it was introducing myself and our movement to New Yorkers. And we introduced ourselves to quite a few, which by the end of that primary meant that we won close to 600,000 votes. And yet that work still continues, because when I'm running against Andrew Cuomo, it's not just his name or his record that comes to mind for New Yorkers, it's also that of his father. And so for many New Yorkers, that was the association that they began the race with. And now we are building a coalition that shows our agenda is one that will deliver that affordability to each and every New Yorker.
Some major breaking news in the New York City mayoral race. Incumbent Mayor Eric Adams, who was...
I think it's kind of like a good sign and a bad sign. Like, this is just a complete vindication of my analysis, right? How long have I been saying centrist Democrats will align with the right rather than support even moderate social democracy? I've been saying this for 5 years. In fact, I had a debate with Sam Cedar about it in 2020. I told Sam Cedar in 2020, I was like, listen, I understand beating Trump, but you have to understand that Joe Biden's going to go in there and he's going to be doing a project of anti-leftism. I was completely right about what Biden's presidency would look like.
Running for re-election as an independent has dropped out of the race. Adams will now be the first one-term New York City mayor since David Dinkins lost re-election back in 1993. The scandal-plagued mayor had been struggling in the polls, with a recent Fox News poll showing him dead last at 8% behind his rivals Zohran Mamdani, Andrew Cuomo, and even Curtis Lewa. Here's what Adams said earlier in a video announcing the end of his campaign.
Despite all we've achieved, I cannot continue my re-election campaign. The constant media speculation about my future and the campaign finance board's decision to withhold millions of dollars have undermined my ability to raise the funds needed for a serious campaign. I hope you will see that despite the headlines and innuendo, I always put you before me, always.
And joining us exclusively for his first live sit-down interview since the shakeup in the race, Zohran Mamdani, the Democratic nominee in the New York City mayoral race. Great to have you back here on the set. We got to say that we weren't expecting to have you here, so we really appreciate you making time because of the news. I'll start broadly by getting your reaction to the fact that Eric Adams, who is polling fourth, has dropped out, and what this means for the race going forward.
Look, Donald Trump and his billionaire donors may be able to determine the actions of Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo, but they will not dictate the results of this election. This continues to be the same election as it was when we started on October 23rd, a choice that New Yorkers have between Eric Adams' record, which is Andrew Cuomo's agenda, one that has priced New Yorkers out of what is now the most expensive city in the United States of America, or our vision for a city that New Yorkers can actually afford. And I'm excited and just as confident as I was.
Do you guys remember this? You guys remember this that was happening during the presidential race? Jared Golden and Marie Gustamp Perez came out today and said Trump win and democracy will be fine and they're okay with it. You guys remember those posts? I mean, like, the thing about these people is it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, right? Like, the centrist Democrats are never held accountable because it's not about winning. It's about maintaining the centrist Democrats as the only politically relevant group in the party, and the rest of us are just there to absorb energy and prop them up.
Yesterday at actually delivering that vision and winning this race on November 4th.
Do you have a sense of what's behind this decision today? We've all heard that Curtis Lewa, the Republican, claims that he's been offered large sums of money from powerful people to get out of the way. Do you think that's what's happened here?
I think we have to put this in a larger context where after we beat Andrew Cuomo by 13 points in the Democratic primary, he called Donald Trump to ask what they could do together to defeat our campaign in the general election. And Donald Trump has spoken time and again about how he wants to narrow this race, how he wants to use every tool at his disposal to try and stop this campaign for affordability. And we're seeing amidst all of that here yet again the moment where he is shaping this race, but we're going to show him that New Yorkers are tired of his politics and they're tired of being priced out of the city.
Eric Adams had a warning for New Yorkers in his parting message, and I want to play that and have you respond on the other side.
I must also sound a warning. Extremism is growing in our politics. Our children are being radicalized to hate our city and our country. Major change is welcome and necessary. But beware of those who claim the answer to destroy the very system we built together over generations. That is not change, that is chaos.
What do you make of that message? Do you feel that that's directed towards you and is not so veiled swipe at your Muslim heritage, but also your position, some of your policy positions? What's your response to that?
Well, I think that the only thing I truly find to be extreme is Eric Adams' record. This is a man who's raised the rent on more than 2 million New Yorkers by 12%, a man who slowed down already the slowest buses in the country, one who priced New Yorkers out of childcare that cost them about $25,000 a year. That's what's extreme. That's what's radical. And our vision to deliver affordability, it's common sense, and we're seeing that it's popular across the 5 boroughs. And what I actually think of more in Eric Adams' parting words are the ones that he gave us a few weeks ago, where he assembled a number of cameras and spoke to them directly, that Andrew Cuomo is a liar and a snake. And I think that New Yorkers are tired of that kind of politics. They're tired of considering the architect of this affordability crisis and Andrew Cuomo as being the next mayor of the city. They want a new direction.
You talked about how the billionaires in this city were very clear about they wanted to consolidate this race, to have it between you and Andrew Cuomo. Does that crystallization, you think, breathe life into the campaign of Andrew Cuomo? He welcomed Eric Adams dropping out, and there's a lot of questions as to whether or not he will now get an cash injection of money from donors, the Bill Ackmans of the world, who wanted to see Eric Adams out, and then a consolidation of resources behind Cuomo. Do you think that will do anything whatsoever in this race for Cuomo?
You know, it reminds me of what Andrew Cuomo wanted in the primary. He wanted me to be his main opponent. And he got that, and we beat him by 13 points. And that was in spite of around $30 million being spent against us to smear and slander our campaign. And I have no doubt that he will see an influx of donations from Donald Trump donors, the very ones who have been trying to coax these other candidates out of the race. But I continue to be confident that New Yorkers can see through that, and they understand that this is a democracy. It's not something to be bought by an oligarchy. And no matter the attempts of people who are willing to spend more money than I would ever tax them, we are going to show that this is a city that deserves to be one that New Yorkers can afford.
But with the race being a little bit wider now, does that change at all the calculation? Because now it's not just the primary, it's not just Democratic members who can vote in the primary. It's going to be wider in the city.
Well, you know, the affordability crisis impacts New Yorkers regardless of their politics. Right. I've met Republicans, I've met unaffiliated voters, I've met voters who are registering to vote now.
Yeah, we just watched it, plus good.
For the first time, and they tell me the same issues that Democrats spoke to me about: their rent.
This is why. This is the strategy that. This is the only idea that will work. Okay, we're not going to change the jersey wearers. Okay, by being nicer to them, like being nicer to Republicans, it's not going to make them go, you know, you've been so nice to me and said Republicanism is so good. Well, I'm going to become a Democrat now. That doesn't happen. Let me put it to you another way. When do teams, like sports teams, get more fans? Like, what is the thing that makes people change jerseys and become a fan of a team? The answer is when they're fucking winning. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. One of the biggest fan bases in the NFL is the Pittsburgh fucking Steelers. This is like the 21st largest city in the country? 20th largest city in the country, something like that. Why does it have so many fucking fans? Because they've won so many goddamn Super Bowls. They make late playoff runs every fucking year, okay? You know who doesn't have any fans? The New York fucking Jets. It's next to the largest fucking city in the world, and they barely have any fans because they don't fucking win, okay? They don't fucking win. So if you want people to put on the Democratic Party jersey, you've got to fucking win. And it's not just electorally. I'm talking about policy wins. There's a reason why Chinese people love the Communist Party of China. It's because their lives just have been getting better. For 40 straight years, their lives have been getting better. And before that, they saw how China they saw China, like many people look at some of the failures of the Great Leap Forward and they go, oh man, China must hate Mao. And it's like, no, because they remember what it was like during the warlord era or the world wars or the Civil War. That was an improvement. Every single year, it's been an improvement. The fastest growth in human life expectancy was during the time that Mao was in power in China. And this is what I'm talking about. If you want people to change jerseys, you've got to win, and then you've got to make their lives better, and you have to connect their life being better with you. That's how you establish gratitude. If you want people to be gratitudinous toward you, you have to actually do the thing. And then, and this is the most important lesson I'm going to teach you about politics. Politics is not about what you have done. It's what you will do. Okay? What you have done establishes credibility for the future. So it isn't, I delivered this, now give me rewards at Betty's. It's, I delivered you this, thank you. That's evidence I'm going to deliver you this. It's a treadmill. It's a treadmill. Your life is getting better. That's called progress. And this is so basic. That's why people don't give a shit about the ACA, okay? Yes, the ACA was a marginal improvement over the health insurance system prior to it. But that's not going to motivate people for decades, okay? You have to motivate them with another benefit or an improvement, or you have to move them forward, or you have politics be about something else.
Their childcare, public transit, the fact they just can't afford the city. And I know that this is an agenda that will speak to the despair, the disappointment that many New Yorkers have had with politics and politicians. And I understand that, because if Andrew Cuomo was the only example you had of a politician, why would you believe in them either? Our job is to show them there's an alternative.
What do you make of the state of play in the Democratic Party in New York right now? Since the last time we saw you, Hochul has endorsed you. The two of you have appeared together and are clearly finding common ground. But Schumer, Jeffries, still on the sidelines. Jeffries today put out a statement thanking Adams for his service. I mean, this is a person who actually has technically left the Democratic Party now and ran as an independent in this race. So what do you make of that? And at this point, I guess, Do you even want the endorsement of Jeffries or Schumer?
Look, I will welcome endorsements from anyone across the city, and I will welcome them because we're looking to build a coalition that reflects the 8.5 million people who call this city home. And I'm proud, as you said, not only to have the endorsement of Governor Hochul, but also of Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins in the state Senate, as well as Assembly Speaker Carl Hastie, because these are the New Yorkers I will be working with to deliver this agenda, to show that the relationship between City Hall and Albany doesn't have to be as tense as it was under Andrew Cuomo. It can be one of partnership and one of productivity.
But do you think those leaders are holding out in service of the people that they serve, the communities, neighborhoods that they walk through and work with every day, or in service of something else?
You know, I can't speak to the motivations. I can just tell you that I'm proud to be building a campaign that we're seeing increased excitement across these 5 boroughs, and a campaign which, you know, won the most number of votes in New York City primary history. We saw that the top 3 age demographics.
I don't see what he wants to do extending outside of New York. Every single thing he's doing is a policy that should be expanded or could be expanded nationwide. I think the big problem that we have is that I think a lot of people who are not very good at politics look at Zohran and they're like, why isn't Zohran proposing all sorts of policies that are even more bold? And the answer is he can't do them. I have long been a champion of Viennese-style housing reforms, which is we set aside a national funding mechanism to fund high-quality social housing and public housing nationwide. And we build millions of units in the highest demand cities. That's not going to be something that mayors could do on their own because they're too constrained by state control and federal control. What Zohran has talked about doing are things that he could actually do within the political economy that he's facing, which is incredibly wise of him. And I don't think that that's the end of his political horizon. I think it is him making bold, but yet pragmatic policy decisions so that he could deliver on what he promised and not overpromise and underdeliver. I think that one of the things that I've learned is that it is wisest to underpromise and overdeliver than it is to get your promise exactly correct. Because even if you promise a lot of really good shit and then you do all of it, it's not as exciting as promising a bunch of things that people kind of like and then over-delivering. But you promise enough to get them excited and then you over-deliver. That is the smart way of doing it. Yes, Mamdani can make New York City more fair and more affordable with democratic socialism. New York City has modest rent regulations and some permanently affordable housing. Deb's socialist Vienna has more rent control, more social housing, more planning. It works there. It could work here. Exactly. Exactly. Like if you look at neighborhoods and districts, Interstat's income is the only district that is like significantly higher, but it's barely higher than the poorest compared to the, like, look at this. The financial districts is 171% higher, and it's the Melrose income is 62%. Like, look at the income inequality difference between Vienna and New York. That's fucking crazy. Did you see the Madeline Pendleton TikTok where she went to a Peace and Freedom rally? They were saying they could do free healthcare, free pre-K, free college, rent freeze, eviction moratorium, $30 minimum wage. All they had to do was a 1% in California by 2%. The reality is that we need to have, in my study of history, I have come to the realization most people are extremely risk averse. I am not. And getting that self-awareness about how people think and how it's different from how your personality and the way you think, and so you could bridge those gaps to a goal that you have, is very important. So I kind of believe that right now Americans are hanging on by their fingernails. They haven't yet plunged into the abyss. And so when I say, hey, put on this parachute, that to them seems more unrealistic than just being able to pull themselves onto the ledge. But there's no one there. They have nothing to grab hold on. Their grip is failing. They don't have the strength to pull themselves up. They are going to plunge. And so my strategy, my political strategy, is to be the guy saying, hey, put on the parachute. People see me as the guy saying, put on the parachute. I wear my parachute. And when their fingernails finally give way, I'm going to dive into the abyss after you with the parachute in my hand. And as you fall, I'm going to put it on your back. That's what's going to happen. Okay? We're going to fall into the abyss. It is going to happen. And American politics are beginning to shift as more and more of people's fingers slip free. But when finally the economy craters, and it will, that's when all these radical policies we're talking about will become not only plausible, but necessary. Without doing radical risk of saving the planet, many observational data has forecast 0.4 degree C decade rise in global temperature, which means 3 degrees C will occur before 2070. There's a reason why I have become significantly more optimistic. And that is China is the world superpower and everybody else is playing catch up. It is 1939. In 1939, America was the most powerful country in the world, but everybody hadn't caught up yet. We needed 6 years of grinding struggle before it was very clear that America was the world superpower. China is so much further ahead of the rest of the world in potential. The United States can't keep up, and we're going into a new world. I'm in HR. Next year, our health insurance cost for our employees is going to rise 12%. It's not sustainable. I mean, that's been happening like that for decades now. What are the risks for China? America's religiously mad conservative fascist alliance presses the big red button and nukes the planet, fit of pique over being humiliated and reduced in importance. That's why it's absolutely vital that we support China's rapid nuclearization, the increase of their missile force, the increase of their nuclear triad. We have to increase China's nuclear stockpile while reducing our own. That's the only way to ensure there won't be some sort of delusional nuclear first strike strategy. Why not reduce all? Because the United States cannot be trusted. Like what? Speaking of Madeline, did you see that on TikTok? People are once again pointing fingers at leftists for Kamala losing. They're blaming us for Trump getting the deal done and making the algo more censored and pro-Israeli, going that Biden is the one who kicked the can down the road and Kamala supported that. Oh, I mean, the reason why TikTok and X are now fascist is because of the Democrats. The Democrats made sure that Twitter was bought by Elon Musk. They didn't block it, and it was an amalgamation of Saudi money to buy and Elon Musk's guarantees to buy Twitter. The Democrats could have blocked that. And the Democrats are the ones who joined with the Republicans to censor TikTok because they are Zionists. It's the Democratic Party establishment that did that. And if they had won the election, they would have done it again. Are you stupid? My For You page have already gone to shit. Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. And I actually think that there's a lot of liberal infighting content that's being boosted as well. It almost makes me want to abandon the platform completely, honestly. Did you see the Saudis bought EA Games for cash? Hamas to reportedly demilitarize for pressure of Qatar per Jerusalem Post. I mean, that's possible. I could see that happening if there was some sort of like multi-party Arab army that came in to occupy Gaza. I think I could see that happening as long as it ends the Israeli occupation.
Graphics that came out were all under the age of 35. We registered 30,000 people in the last 10 days. That's the excitement we're seeing, which is necessary because we can't protect democracy if people lose faith in its ability to actually deliver on the material needs of working people.
So now this is a new phase of the campaign, though. You're going to head-to-head now with Andrew Cuomo, with whom, you know, there's no love lost among many New Yorkers that I talk to.
Don't forget Curtis Sliwa.
Yeah. Well, who I respect because he takes care of animals well. But that said, so back to the race, though. There are plenty of friends of mine who they recognize your political talent. They admire you, but they worry that they're more moderate. They're worried you're going to make taxes higher, that the city is going to become more expensive, that it's going to be harder to do business here. They worry that you're inexperienced. What are you going to do what do you have to say to those moderate voters?
Well, the first thing is that I'm looking to represent them as well. I'm not looking to just be a mayor of the nearly 600,000 New Yorkers who voted for me. I'm looking to lead a city of 8.5 million people. And so much of this general election has been reaching out to those who have questions or concerns and making clear that our affordability agenda is a universal one. It's one that understands that tenants are facing rent hikes that are pushing them out of the city, and homeowners are facing a water bill the highest it's been in 13 years, a broken property tax system, the necessity of having an application of these ideals for every New Yorker. And I know that for so many New Yorkers, small business is where they find their employment. And I've spoken to many small business owners who've told me that one of the most difficult things about operating a business in the city is how Byzantine the city's bureaucracy is to navigate. Mm-hmm. And that's why we've committed to cutting fines and fees by 50% and to looking at all the regulations we have, as someone who believes in regulation, to ensure that these still have a resonance and an actual reason to exist today. Because some of them, when you ask a barbershop owner how many forms he had to fill out, he tells you 24 forms, 7 agencies, 12 in-person events. How is that stimulating the kind of growth we need in this city?
Is there a policy concession that you would be willing to make in order to woo more moderate voters? Or, since you're the front runner, you're ahead by double digits, do you not really have to make policy concessions?
The policies that I'm running on are the ones still from the primary, but I'm also willing to speak to everyone and anyone, because sometimes the concerns are based more on a caricature of me as opposed to who I actually am. You know, there are people who have come up to me and said, how will we be able to pay for free rent? I said, no, you drop the ZE. It's freeze the rent of 2 million rent stabilized tenants. And similarly, people who ask me questions about, is it possible to make buses fast and free? I say the cost would be about $600–700 million, which is less than Andrew Cuomo gave to Elon Musk 1 year in tax breaks of $959 million. Showing people the context that we're in and building a coalition where they may not see themselves in me, perhaps, but they may see themselves in the best and the brightest that I'll hire to surround me in City Hall.
The other side of that coin, I guess, is do you worry at all as you meet with some of these leaders, moderates, business leaders who've wanted to get your time and attention here in the city over the last several months, do you worry at all about losing connection and credibility with the young people who fueled your initial win? I met many of them who said they literally only voted because you were on the ticket, that they were glad you didn't have a relationship with all these people that they despised. But now, you know, as you said, you're willing to be the mayor for the people that they despise. So how are you going to strike that balance?
How do you thread that needle?
Yeah, well, I think what I've told young people and supporters of our campaign across the board is the most important thing is delivering the agenda that excited so many. Because more than people knowing my name, I have people stopping me in the street shouting, freeze the rent, shouting fast and free buses, shouting universal child care. And it's going to take everyone to deliver that. And I think the most important part of it is honesty. When I go into a room with the leaders of the most profitable companies in New York City, we all know that I'm leaving the room in the same way, still thinking that it's right to increase personal income taxes on the top 1% of New Yorkers by 2%, still thinking we should have the state's top corporate tax rate be that of New Jersey. There's going to be that disagreement, but there's also room to find other places of agreement. And I think that's what New Yorkers want. They want a politics that delivers as opposed to one that just looks to speak to those who have every opinion they already do.
Andrew Cuomo had some nice things to say about Eric Adams' tenure. I'm going to give you a chance as a person who's stepping aside from politics. Do you think he did anything well in the 4 years that he served as mayor? I mean, he's still on for a couple more months, but do you think he did anything well as mayor of the city?
I think he spoke the truth when he called Andrew Cuomo a liar and a snake. I also think that his steps towards the containerization of trash are ones that are welcome in this city. And I think that City of Yes was something that was good and something should be built on.
All right. I think also you may be the first person on the show to use the word Byzantine. So we'll give you this.
I'm so old, man. I'm so old. I don't think that's funny. I think that's embarrassing. I honestly don't like it when people are like, you used a word that you should have learned when you were in 9th grade. Oh, man. We're illiterates here. I mean, I know how they're trying to pretend like it's you know, we don't consider ourselves to be book smart nerds. We're down to earth like all of you illiterates out there who can't read a book. It's like, no. You are talking down to the audience. You are an arrogant elitist when you do shit like this. This is fake and it's annoying. This is why I wouldn't be a good politician, because I would stop it and be like, you and your readers, should read a fucking book. My God.
That's pretty. We'll give you that.
Zohran Mamdani, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hiring Adams would show Mamdani isn't a factional politician and can recognize swag no matter its ideological origins. We can have both left-wing policies and swagful and sauceful content. Eric Adams is the most swagless man of all time, you know? All right, chat. It's time for the GOAT, John Oliver. He just released a video on Netanyahu. If you need a content creator to show your parents, because your parents are definitely going to be impressed by like being on the TV, and you want someone who's less polemical than me, showing them some John Oliver videos is a good place to start. Democracy Now! And John Oliver. And of course, myself. Once they're woke in of all time. That's the most British. I'm sorry, chat. It's the most British opinion. If you're agreeing with it, it's the British opinion. They just don't like seeing anything green or fresh near all the rest of the fried food, okay? Or the boiled food, all right? Having a shock of color is a little bit of visually interesting. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of roughage. Clean out that colon. You probably have 8 polyps. My God. He's like, oh, my food. Story about Ian Roberts, the superintendent of Des Moines Public Schools, is one of the most batshit stories. I'm just looking into it now. What the fuck? Yo, America is so racist. Holy shit. That's crazy. Every element of this story is batshit. He is only being treated this way because he's black. Crazy.
What exactly?
It's literally called Jewish Power or Jewish Strength. It advocates for the deportation of those they consider to be the enemies of Israel. The party has been described in the international press as extremist, ultranationalist, and racist organization supporting Jewish supremacy, and having been described by multiple sources as a Jewish fascist group. I mean, this is not my opinion. It's not me saying it because I just don't like them. They are. It calls for a one-state solution, including the annexation of the West Bank and complete Israeli rule of the land between the Jordan River and Mediterranean Sea. And it wants to impose Israeli sovereignty over the Temple Mount. Itmar Ben-Gvir called for the expulsion of Arab citizens of Israel who are, quote, not loyal to Israel. He also advocated for giving full immunity to soldiers. Like, as a straight man, I always find it fascinating when other straight men are so transfixed by gay men. I always feel like they're telling on themselves. Like, if you're a straight guy and you're constantly thinking about gay men and asking them about their love lives and how they have sex and shit, you might be kind of gay, or at least bi. You should re-examine the like hyper-fixation that certain people have on gay men. Tells me that they have an interest.
That's been recalled. It sounds like a Fire Island party.
Dick's theory says all these gay men keep sucking my dick. No, let's be honest. None of these guys are getting their dick sucked. They're sucking the dicks. Okay? Like these conservative men, they're not tapping their shoe in the toilet to have their dick sucked. They're doing it to suck a dick. They are like, duh. If they want their dick sucked, you know, like there's plenty of ways to do that. Don't involve a beard on your ball sack. Okay? They're looking for that. They want to taste it. That's why they are the way they are. What if you're just a drummer and you tap your shoe all the time?
On August 8th, Larry Craig pled guilty to disorderly conduct for allegedly propositioning an undercover cop in an airport restroom. Now, the Republican senator says he did nothing wrong at the Minneapolis airport. What did Larry Craig do in that airport bathroom? The following is a reenactment based on the arresting officer's report.
On 6/11/07, at about 1200 hours, I was working a plainclothes detail involving lewd conduct in the main men's public restroom of the Lindbergh terminal. I entered the men's restroom and proceeded to an unoccupied stall. At 12:13 hours, I could see an older white male with gray hair standing outside my stall. He was standing about 3 feet away and had a roller bag with him. The male was later identified by Idaho driver's license as Larry Edwin Craig. I could see Craig look through the crack in the door. Craig would look down at his hands, fidget with his fingers, and then look through the crack into my stall again. Craig would repeat the cycle for about 2 minutes. I was able to see Craig's blue eyes as he looked into my stall. At 12:15 hours, the male in the stall to the left of me flushed the toilet and exited the stall. Craig entered the stall and placed his roller bag against the front of the stall door. From my seated position, I could observe the shoes and ankles of Craig seated to the left of me. He was wearing dress pants with black dress shoes. At 12:16 hours, Craig tapped his right foot. Craig tapped his toes several times and moved his foot closer to my foot. I moved my foot up and down slowly. Craig moved his right foot so that it touched the side of my left foot, which was within my stall area. At 12:17 hours, I saw Craig swipe his hand under the stall divider for a few seconds. Craig swiped his hand for a few seconds in the same motion to where I could see more of his fingers. Craig then swiped his hand in the same motion a third time for a few seconds. I could see that it was Craig's left hand due to the position of his thumb. I could also see Craig had a gold ring on his ring finger. At about 12:19 hours, I held my police identification in my right hand, down by the floor, so that Craig could see it. With my left hand near the floor, I pointed towards the exit.
In an interview following his arrest, Craig stated that he has a wide stance when going to the bathroom and that his foot may have touched the officers.
This is one of the most famous homophobes in Washington, D.C.
It truly is a tragedy because it's our culture that drives them into the closet, and then and being in the closet brings about these perversions.
Yes.
Nothing wrong with the sex.
Right.
It's the way they approach it and the hypocrisy of them pointing. Like Craig, you know, he was the one that was talking about Bill Clinton was a bad boy. Bad boy.
Right. It's guys like Larry Craig, the senator, who forced guys like Larry Craig, the man, into the airport toilet. And we have that clip that you were talking about. This is from Chris Matthews' show, I think, in 1999.
Bill Maher's brain was permanently atrophied by COVID. And he was always an anti-vaxxer weirdo. But he has legitimately gotten dumber, too.
Chris Matthews, they were talking about the impeachment of Clinton. Look at what Larry Craig says, and then look at the look on Chris Matthews' face when he gets done talking.
The Senate certainly can bring about a censure resolution, and it's a slap on the wrist.
Riffs with gave 5, and that forced Valorant to fund our evil socialist program. Chat, we have 2 days left of September, which means if you gift at least 5 subs right now, you force Valorant to gift me money. Take advantage. That means there is never a better time than right now to support this community. Calm like a Tom, thank you for the 20 gifted subs, which has forced Valorant to give out 5. Airbnb Abortion, thank you for the 10 gifted subs. And for your tier 2 for 6 months in advance. Chat, right now we have a hype train going on. Take advantage of this opportunity to get more money for your gifties. Oh, Oreo Resty just gave 5 and Valorant gave 2. The gamba is on, chat. Let's take advantage of this opportunity. Your money goes further.
It's a bad boy, Bill Clinton. You're a naughty boy. Certainly can bring about a censure resolution, and it's a slap on the wrist. It's a bad boy, Bill Clinton. You're a naughty boy. The American people already know that Bill Clinton is a bad boy, a naughty boy. I'm going to speak out for the citizens of my state who, in the majority, think that Bill Clinton is probably even a nasty, bad, naughty boy.
You got that one on Chris?
Chat, but you can't talk about those, how nationalistic they are. It's weird. It's fucking weird. And like Israel they're overwhelmingly in favor of the genocide. Even they're like the idea that Israel is like under the spell of Netanyahu. No, they're not. It is the most democratic country in the world, right? 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 I've always been told it's the most democratic country in the world. It's the most moral army. That can only be true if you believe that Palestinians are not human, that Arabs are not human, that genocide and war crimes are not crimes if done against your enemies. I'm sorry, there is no whitewashing Israel. Thank you, Delta, for the 5 gifties. Appreciate all the gifters. Yahoo! Anyone who wants to thwart the establishment of a Palestinian state has to support bolstering Hamas and transferring money to Hamas. Netanyahu told his Likud party Knesset members in March 2019, this is part of our strategy. New book from Israeli helicopter pilots. Many admit that on October 2023, they had no idea whether they were killing Palestinians or Israelis. Every target I marked was shadowed by doubt, and each time I squeezed the trigger, I wonder I was about to fire at our soldiers or on the terrorists. Yet we have long known that significant numbers of Israeli civilians and soldiers were killed by the Israeli military that day under the so-called Hannibal Directive, yet it's still unmentionable in Western media. The book reviewer notes that not one pilot indicated a shred of remorse for the tens of thousands of Gaza's children killed and maimed through their actions. And if you think this shit is just happening in Israel, Thank you guys for the level 12 hype train. If you think this is just happening in Israel, guess again. 300 Northwestern students have been barred from any class registration after refusing to complete a mandatory, quote, anti-Semitism training they describe as pro-Israel propaganda with factual errors that equates criticism of the state with anti-Semitism. The video, produced by Pro-Israel Jewish United Fund, which opposed the Gaza ceasefire, described Israel as founded on British land, refers to occupied West Bank as Judea and Samaria, equates criticism of Israel with anti-Semitism, and compares Israel's critics to ex-Ku Klux Klan leader David Duke. Jewish and non-Jewish students wrote that the training reinforces rather than reduces the proliferation of discriminatory bias. Non-compliance leads to registration holds, threatens jobs, visas, health insurance, and stipends. This training stems from Trump's threats to pull funding from universities deemed lax on anti-Semitism, though he had already cut $790 million in research money from Northwestern. This is absolute fascism. Okay, we are okay. Why do I have this video? This is, as much as I like John Oliver, this political analysis is dumb as fuck. Guys, it's not Netanyahu. It is Israel. And this is a crisis because people don't want to they don't want to have to deal with the fact that not only is Israel like bad because the right wing is in power, Israel itself has to be dismantled. Israel itself needs to go the way of apartheid South Africa. There's no way for this two-state solution to work. It can't work. It can't work. What needs to happen is an international coalition occupies Israel, removes the government, disarms the IDF, unites it into one state called Palestine, and does a democratic, we arrest the war criminals, which is hundreds of thousands of Israelis, and we hold democratic elections, and we end any kind of racial or religious discrimination, and we create a secular state of Palestine. I'm sorry, that's the only solution.
There's a business plan set by the most professional people there is, and is on President Trump's table. And how this thing turns
Tony
into
said we should hang the leaders. I personally don't know what capital punishment should be is the most humane, but if they are convicted for the crime of genocide in a tribunal like the Nuremberg trials, then I believe capital punishment would be warranted once you go through that full international process. The genocidal intent is confirmed. The evidence is presented to neutral judges. I want rule of law. I want international anti-genocide conventions to be enforced. No, he's not. Why is everybody so stupid and naive? What the fuck is going on? How are you this naive, dude? How are you this naive? How are you this naive? What is wrong with you? My lord. What are you talking about? He's not pissed about anything. He got bribed $100 million by Sheldon Adelson's wife to annex the West Bank. He's not confused, okay? Trump is too stupid to be pissed. He's doing exactly what he was elected to do. Stop it, man. I can't really look at him for a very long period of time without saying that this is the equivalent of a 4chan poll Nazi being president of the United States. That's the level of politician that they have in Israel. That's who's in power. And like every single thing he says it does is a lying manipulation. And he has utter contempt for humanity. I don't think you could call him a classical narcissist. He is a world historic evil incarnate. And every single day he walks around on Earth without being arrested for his war crimes is another day that humanity as a collective has failed. We are all guilty of not bringing this man to justice.
I think that deserves
that video, it kind of felt like an artifact to me. You know, I know the vibe thing is to be like, oh yeah, based pro anti-Netanyahu, but it feels like an artifact of 2021 or something. Like this is a relic of the pre-genocide period. This was the progressive position in 2020. You know, at this point, Israel has gleefully committed genocide for 2 years, man. You don't do that with a bare majority. That is a societal consensus. And that means that Israel itself is a genocidal project at this point. You can't, like, come on, man. You're just, this is baby shit. And it's going to lead you down a path of failure because guess what? The Israelis don't want to negotiate for peace because they haven't been broken out of their delusions. That was trash. And it's why places like this are so important. It's why places like my stream and Hassan's stream need to grow because we are the only place where people are actually speaking about what politics is necessary, what policy is necessary. It's weird that he's called Israel an apartheid, saying that Israel is a genocide. It's like he's a step away, but what's the holdup? I don't know. It's not like the Israeli right is genocidal and the Israeli left is like pro-peace. No, the Israeli left is pro-settlement too. It's just nonsensical. I don't understand it. All right, let's talk about the mass shooting in Michigan. We had another mass shooting, this time from a right-wing guy, big Trump supporter.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Danny Freeman, sitting in for Frederica Whitfield, and we're beginning this hour with breaking news. A mass shooting at a Mormon church in Michigan has left one person dead and 9 others injured, including children. Police say the shooter rammed his truck through the front doors. At the same time, a large fire started at the church. Now, officials just gave a press conference a short time ago. Let's take a listen.
Here to give you some preliminary details on an incident that happened earlier today at 10:25 a.m. within Grambling Township. First off, I'd like to say our thoughts and prayers go out to the victims of this incident, which is completely unnecessary and unavoidable. The incident that we're going to talk about here today, as I said, was happening at 10:25 a.m. at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which is located at 4285 McCandless Road. During this incident, what we know right now is that a 40-year-old suspect from Burton, he's a male, he drove his vehicle through the front doors of the church. He then exited his vehicle, firing several rounds at individuals within the church. 10 gunshot victims have been transported to local hospitals at this time, including one who has been deceased. Officers who were trained immediately responded to the area.
Seems like it's the older
one was a DNR officer,
let me
and then one was a Grambling Township officer, where they met the suspect and they engaged in gunfire with that particular individual, neutralizing that suspect, and that suspect is no longer with us. As I said, it is a 40-year-old male from Burton. During all this incident as well, there was a fire that occurred, and we believe that was deliberately set by the suspect. We do believe that we will find additional victims.
At least 4 people were killed and 8 others wounded yesterday during an attack on a church in Michigan. Authorities say the suspect, identified as 40-year-old Thomas Jacob Sanford, drove a vehicle through the front doors of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Grambling Township before he began shooting at worshipers attending Sunday service. Police believe the suspect then intentionally set fire to the church, reducing much of the building to rubble, where investigators say more victims may still be found. Officials note that as many as 3 improvised devices were also found at that scene. The suspected gunman, who was killed after exchanging fire with police, is from a nearby town and has a military background. He served in the Marines for 4 years and was deployed to Iraq, according to a Marine Corps spokesman. At this hour, authorities are still working to uncover a motive for the attack, but the FBI says it's investigating this as an act of targeted violence. President Trump reacted to the fatal shooting on social media yesterday, calling it horrendous, describing it as yet another targeted attack on Christians in the U.S. and writing, "This epidemic of violence in our country must end immediately." We're going to have a live.
Guys, Trump said it must end immediately. I guess we're good. We did it. We figured it out. We ended it immediately.
Report from the scene just a little while from now on Morning Joe. And turning then to the big story in Washington. Today, President Trump will meet with 4 top congressional leaders at the White House just one day before the deadline to avoid a government shutdown. Nothing like wait until the last minute. Republicans have been working to advance a temporary funding bill that keeps federal spending levels flat. But Democrats are demanding an extension of health care subsidies, as well as the reversal of cuts Republicans made to Medicaid and other health programs earlier this year. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer spoke about the odds of a shutdown yesterday.
Donald Trump has taken a go-it-alone approach from the very beginning of this Congress. And unfortunately, my colleagues on the Republican side of the aisle have behaved not as a separate and co-equal branch of government and a check and balance on an out-of-control executive branch, but as a consistent rubber stamp for Donald Trump's extreme agenda. Our view going into the meeting is that we want to find bipartisan common ground to find a spending agreement that avoids a government shutdown and actually meets the needs of the American people in terms of their health, their safety, and their economic well-being.
You think you can keep the government open, or you think you're headed for a shutdown?
Well, it depends on the Republicans. You know, the meeting is a first step, but only a first step. We need a serious negotiation. Now, if the president at this meeting is going to rant and just yell at Democrats and talk about all his alleged grievances and say this, that, and the other thing, we won't get anything done. But my hope is it'll be a serious negotiation.
Republicans are putting their own frame on this, saying the blame will be on Democrats if the government actually shuts down.
Totally up to the Democrats. The ball is in their court. There is a bill sitting at the desk in the Senate right now. We could pick it up today and pass it. That has been passed by the House, that will be signed into law by the president to keep the government open. So this decision, in my judgment, at this point in time, is up to a handful of Democrats.
Well, look, we don't want to shut down the government, Martha, but it's really up to the Democrats. We don't want to shut down the government, but if Democrats refuse to just pass this clean continuing resolution, that's exactly what's going to happen, and I think the Democrats are going to bear the responsibility for it.
I want to bring in now two of our best, MSNBC congressional reporter Michael Schnell and MSNBC White House correspondent Akayla Gardner, a dynamic duo to start what's going to be a very dynamic and fast-moving week. Akayla, before we get into the dynamics of the shutdown, I do want to ask you about the reaction that we've heard out of the White House to that horrific shooting over the weekend in Michigan. Talk about the way that the president and others are talking about this.
Well, federal authorities are assisting in investigating and monitoring the shooting. And you saw the president describe it as this epidemic of violence in the country. And this has been really a relentless past couple weeks for the White House to keep responding to multiple instances of violence. And they believe this is a larger problem. We saw the president just last week sign this presidential memorandum on domestic terrorism, and they believe there's specifically targeting of Christians and places of worship in this country.
Yeah, we do have an epidemic of violence, and especially over the last few weeks, gun violence in this country. And it has been a lot for everyone to have to deal with and respond to. We'll continue watching that.
Why is MSNBC so nice to Trump? Because corporations have made their decision, which is of course they're going to work with the Republican right. There's no real threat to their profits. There's no structural threat to their profits. There are winners and losers, and the winners are the people that support Trump, and the losers are the ones who stand against him. So every single amoral corporation is going to choose to side with Trump, because they don't think they'll be punished even if he loses power. It's our job to change their mind. You want to have democratic norms, you've got to enforce them when you have power. You don't want right-wing fascists to be in power, you have to do what Lula did and send Bolsonaro to prison for the rest of his fucking life. If Donald Trump was rotting in a federal prison right fucking now, the Democrats had abolished the filibuster and packed the Supreme Court and added D.C. as a state, we wouldn't be in this fucking mess. Period. This is the reality. And I want to say one more thing. I want to say something for some lefties that I see. If you're against gerrymandering, against Republicans, you're stupid. You're stupid. You are legitimately stupid. The way that leftists get into power is by winning Democratic primaries right now. And the more left-wing seats there are that are more Democratic, the more chances we will have to find seats to run in, period. Why am I saying that like entryism is the only way? Because I'm talking about the structure of the system as it is. We have to stop the bleeding, and we run wherever we can. I want a third party. The more progressives we have, the more, when the contradictions come to a head, the more people are going to be available to join a leftist electoral project. If we allow the Republicans to gerrymander themselves into permanent majorities, we will never be able to do anything outside of civil war. It is foolish to allow the Republicans to win out of some sort of like misplaced, like, this is not my ideal alternative. No fucking shit. You're helping the left by gerrymandering for more Democrats. I don't know how this is hard to explain or hard to understand. And that's why I say Prop 50, I support it over not doing it. Republicans are going to gerrymander every state they can. Democrats should be gerrymandering every state they can. Duh. Now, our job on the left is to primary the Zionists. And the more democratic a seat is, the more primary opportunities we have. Duh. I don't give a fuck about accurately reflecting the American people's political effluvia. Like, I don't give a shit about this. I'm a radical leftist. Why the fuck? Like, Mike, we got to make sure that the Republicans have the fair amount of seats in California. Who fucking, are you okay? You know what the fair amount of Republican seats is in my ideal society? 0. And if you don't agree with me, why the fuck aren't you a Republican already? Have the courage of your convictions. Believe that you are correct.
Its own president calls it an epidemic of violence. This time 4 dead in a mass killing and 8 others injured after a gunman drove a vehicle into this church in Michigan. He opened fire before setting it alight with gasoline. Hundreds of people were inside at the time, worshipping at the Mormon Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Seen here, the pickup truck used, complete with the stars and stripes, and a place of worship, now a wreckage.
Our thoughts and prayers go out to the victims of this incident that could have been completely avoided. And it's very tragic, and that's not what our community is. I'd also like to acknowledge the heroism of not only the first responders, but the people who were inside that church at the time. They were shielding the children who were also present within the church, moving them to safety. Just hundreds of people just practicing their faith. Just extreme courage, brave, and that's the type of community that we are.
The gunman has been identified as Thomas Jacob Sanford, a former US Marine from a nearby town and believed to be a veteran of the Iraq War. He was killed in the shootout with police who were on the scene within less than a minute. They say suspected explosives.
Why did he attack the Mormon church? Mike, look at this. Okay, I will after this. Like, what? Revenge for Charlie Kirk? I mean, it doesn't, like, I think one of the worst things you can do is try to understand the average American brain.
Also found.
Certain Mormon communities are more liberal than typical Christians or Catholics. No.
Authorities are investigating the incident but say the motive remains unclear. The FBI now providing federal assistance, calling it an act of targeted violence. Police have now upped resources to religious institutions across the country. On social media, Donald Trump said it appeared to be yet another targeted attack on Christians in the United States of America, saying that the epidemic of violence in the US must end immediately. And the governor of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer, said her heart was breaking, adding that violence, especially in a place of worship, is unacceptable. This incident happened here in the Midwest, around 100 kilometers north of Detroit, and centered on a Mormon church. The Gun Violence Archive shows that over the past 5 years, the number of mass shootings in the US has increased. Mass shootings are considered as 4 people or more killed, not including the shooter. And according to Johns Hopkins University, in recent years there's been an average of 1 death by firearm violence every 11 minutes in the US.
I know there had been some church shootings like recently in the news, but...
Yes, it's far-right extremist violence, of course it is! Of course it is! He was a fucking Trump supporter!
Like the fact that my hands are shaking, like it's
another bout of
10 minutes down the road from where I live, my home. That's insane. Like, I don't know what the hell is going on.
This is part of living in America now. And however it may seem to those outside, in a country that has more guns than people, this has become the reality. Each act of unrelenting violence, no less devastating.
Well, joining me now is Professor Kleena Raleigh. She's the CEO and founder of ACLED. That's a think tank providing real-time data and analysis on violent conflict across the world. She's also a professor of political violence. Professor, we don't have a motive at the moment, but we do know that the shooter was a veteran of the Iraq War. There's been another shooting over the weekend at a bar in North Carolina as well, in which an Iraq War veteran was arrested in connection with it. What does your data show regarding veterans in particular?
Thanks very much for the question. There's no particular pattern about veteran violence, especially mass violence like we've seen over this weekend. Of course, this weekend in the U.S. was especially violent in many places. And in fact, up to this year, it's looking like it's going to be similar to last year in terms of the amount of gun violence in the States, which is already at an all-time high.
If we look at the last 5 years, there appears to have been an increase in gun violence compared with, say, before the pandemic, especially when we look at mass shootings. What does your research show there? And are there any clear indicators as to why?
So in 2019, there was an already very high rate of gun violence in the States, of course, but 2020 saw a drastic increase, and that increase went up a little in 2021 and 2022 before going back to 2020 levels for the remainder of this time. And this year is set to be equal to last year, as I mentioned. But this increase in the last 5 years or so is somewhat unprecedented. And of course, what's really strange is that it mirrors the rise in global political violence. Now, of course, the domestic U.S. gun violence is...
Did you disable clips by chance, or am I losing brain cells? I think you should be able to clip as long as you're subbed. Yeah, you can. We have VODs on and we have clips for subscribers. Dennis raid? Wait, did I get a Dennis raid? What the fuck? A Dennis raid? Chat, welcome in. Welcome into the Denims crew. W Denims. W Denims. If you don't know why, we call Denims Dennis here because I made a video on TikTok about Denims, and I was making fun of Ethan Klein.
Ethan Klein is suing Denims Frogan?
And for some reason, the captions auto-corrected to Dennis. So my chat will never let me forget it. It will never let me forget it. So now it's Dennis forever. You can make fun of me in my TikTok if you'd like. She was already Dennis before that? Really? So that was a happy little accident. Anyway, welcome on in, chat. Welcome to the Central Committee stream. I am your Monday to Friday morning political Twitch streamer from the left. I am, please welcome on in. The Denims Mike from PA Alliance is firming up. Denims is the place to go in the mornings on the weekend. Holy shit. So that's what I endorse. You watch me Monday to Friday, and then on the weekend, you watch Denims. Perfect. And when we're both live, you open 2 windows. Very simple. I agree. Everybody should do that. So thank you, Denims, for the raid. Let me do a shout out to Denims if no one did. Shout out Denim. Beautiful. All right. Others are fighting the clip button is missing. Your position on the DNC putting us in this position with Trump. Others are also finding their clip. I mean, it's on. I just switch between whoever is not talking about Ethan or Destiny. Listen, you have to understand that Ethan Klein and Destiny are political actors of the Zionist lobby. Like, it's not a coincidence that Ethan Klein suddenly decided to go on TikTok after Larry Ellison bought it. If I believe personally that he knows that pro-Israel content is going to be promoted by the new algorithm. Like, it's not a coincidence that he suddenly decided to start making TikToks again. Like, they are making a politicized algorithm. I accidentally got permed from Denims. Just go into her Discord and ask her appeal nicely and apologize for being a dipshit. Don't bring your bans into my chat. All right, let's keep going. We are currently covering the Michigan Mormon church shooting. Denims, what did you talk about today? So what I'm trying to say is, not to be too ADHD, when we talk about Ethan Klein or Destiny, we are talking about our enemies that need to be defeated politically. This isn't just online drama. I don't do online drama. There's plenty of online drama that I will never talk about, even though it's super viral. I talk about politically relevant drama. So what were you guys talking about over there? Mike, war with Venezuela is coming. There are Dem staffers who are pushing people to not oppose regime change in Venezuela. Chat, if we invade Venezuela, I can tell you right now that this country will absolutely shake apart. Like, this country will absolutely shake apart. First of all, it's going to cause probably some sort of oil shock, which will put us into recession even harder. This would be dumb as fuck. And the protests are going to be insane. And then the repression of the protests is going to be unhinged. And so Donald Trump's support is going to crater. even harder.
Not related to global political violence in any particular way, but it's interesting that they both increased, of course, during and then post-COVID. And there really is very few explanations that can explain both at the same time.
So everybody make sure you hit that follow button.
But I would say in the US, it certainly has something to do with the amount of security, public security in the policing that occurred during that time.
This is also a uniquely American phenomenon, isn't it? But there are geographic elements to this as well within the US. What is it that you found?
Yeah, that's a very good point, because lone wolf violence, which is what a lot of these killings are, that don't occur in the high crime hotspots of Chicago, DC, Albuquerque. So if we separate just the general crime that is, of course, relatively high in the US, especially gun crime, and we look at, for example, lone wolf crime, what we're seeing is that there is occurrences across the US, but we're seeing a concentration at the moment within the Midwest, within Michigan, within Minneapolis, and of course Minnesota more broadly. But for the militias that also are very prolific within the US, although they have a relatively low activity rate, those are much more prevalent in Arizona and Montana than they are in the other parts.
To what extent is politics playing a role in all of this, whether it be polarizing communities, both shootings, and also the aftermath and how they think
most gun violence in this country happens with people using incredibly cheap handguns. That's most gun violence in this country. It is somebody who is engaged in some sort of interpersonal conflict and they use an extremely inexpensive pistol. Like, that's what the vast majority of shootings are in this country.
Should be dealt with as well. Is that all part of it?
A little bit. The lone wolf violence is often taken as an excuse for different political parties to lob assaults at each other, whereas, of course, these types of shooters do not have any sort of partisan inclination. They're not representing a political agenda. They may be stimulated by a particular political belief, but that's not mapped onto the US political system in any meaningful way. And so that's why, really, after Charlie Kirk's killing, we've seen an explosion of political commentary about what is effectively an individual's political belief, and there's not a huge amount of coherence there.
You mentioned recent events, but have lone wolf attacks been the norm since data began, or are they becoming more common recently?
So I would say they're not necessarily becoming more common, because if you will recall, in the last decade or so, or maybe even 2 decades really, since these attacks were recorded as happening a lot in schools, they've started to become more common in grocery stores or in places of worship, places that we would have considered to be relatively safe. So the most...
Well, okay, I disagree with the expert here. I would say that mass shootings are happening much more often than they did when I was a small child. And in fact, they are happening in places where people are concentrated. Now, we had some really bad mass shootings, so maybe the total number of killed was reduced because we had some super successful mass shootings, like the mass shooting in Las Vegas that really skewed numbers.
Recent ones that have occurred have had an unfortunate and, of course, tragic consequence of them happening a lot in places of worship.
Do we know why? What the reason is?
I think that there's a little bit of one-upmanship with some of these lone wolf attacks. So while I certainly ascribe to the idea that everybody who perpetrates these types of attacks...
Okay, so looking at, like, checking her answers, mass shootings in the U.S. seem to have spiked significantly during COVID period. And we already have 324 this year, which is like on par for the full year and previous pre-COVID years. So I would say mass shootings are still up significantly from the pre-COVID. And let me tell you, they were rising before 2014 as well. We had 3 on the 28th, one in Eagle Pass, Texas, one in New Orleans, and one in Grand Blanc, Michigan yesterday.
Are suffering from a very severe mental breakdown. Their choice of where to attack these places can seem extremely random. And one of the reasons they seem both random and somewhat inevitable is that there isn't a pattern so much as a clear draw to gaining the most publicity, or, for example, going after unprotected populations, whether they are children praying in Minneapolis or, of course, Mormon worshipers in this quite small place in Michigan.
There were new gun safety laws that came into some states a couple of years ago, but there's never been these huge strides forward.
Okay, we just have some new. Michigan church shooting suspect went on anti-Mormon tirade, political candidate said. When Burton City Council candidate Chris Johns heard that someone shot churchgoers and burned down the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints on September 28th in nearby Grand Blanc, he said not once did he think it was the man he spoke to while canvassing less than a week prior who went on a tirade against the church and described Mormons as the Antichrist. The man was outgoing, polite, and extremely friendly, and his animosity toward the church didn't seem violent. It was very much standard anti-LDS talking points you would find on YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook. When John started seeing images on television and social media of law enforcement swarming the home he had just been to last week on East Atherton and Burton, he had a bad feeling. Then he saw the man's photos circulating online. There are certain things you don't forget. John said of suspect Thomas Jacob Sanford, 40 of Burton, a U.S. Marine veteran who served in Iraq. This is not a forgettable guy. At least 4 people were killed, 2 by gunfire, 2 engulfed in flames. What the fuck? People died in the fire? All right, hold on. Holy shit.
Hello, everyone. I'm talking to Chris right now, and you contacted me a short time ago. Pretty distraught because actually, earlier today, you came to the realization that you say that you talked to the person who did this horrible thing in Grambling Township.
I did last week. It was Wednesday or Thursday. I'm running for city council and I'm canvassing, and I had an address on my map that I went to, and I came across a gentleman. He was very friendly, and he had interacted positively with me, and we got out of the vehicle. We started just to talk, and after a short while, the conversation went to the Church of Latter-day Saints, Mormonism, and he just made the position multiple times that Mormons are the Antichrist. And he, in not so many terms, said that several times, gave me his background, but I just walked away from a person who had some very sharp views about Mormons.
Yeah, so you were just out campaigning for the election in November coming up, I'm assuming?
That is correct.
And so you're just shaking hands, looking to meet people. You come across his door. Have you matched it up?
As a Brit, I still find this so baffling. They're happening everywhere, so somehow that's better. Hearing this woman talk so calmly about mass shootings like it's nothing. Here's the thing about America, is that Americans are choked with thought-terminating cliches. So for us, when we see social problems, we are not educated to talk about solutions, which to me is fucking weird. I'm a solutionizer. When I see a problem, I'm like, okay, has anybody had this problem before? What did they do to fix it? Can we do that? That's what I do. Like, it's a ruthlessly pragmatic approach to problems. But for Americans, they don't think like that. Americans are trapped in these like false choices. They're almost like religious catechisms about like, listen, mass shootings are horrible, but I need my gun to protect my family. I mean, that's what Charlie Kirk was paid for. Charlie Kirk was paid to spread those kind of thought-terminating cliches where people are discouraged from like looking at public policy in a serious fact-based way. And I don't want you to think I think Democrats do this. Democrats don't do this either. Democrats are just as ideologically blinkered as Republicans are. Like when people are like, oh, we have a housing crisis. Mike, why won't you support the abundance movement? It's because it won't work. I literally lived in a city where they had what was basically the abundance movement, and it caused prices to go up. It did not work. It made a few developers into billionaires, but it didn't make life better. It did not make housing more affordable or available for regular people. I also lived in a city called Vienna, Austria, and I saw the policies they have, and it fucking worked. So we have a blueprint. We know how to make these problems. We know that they're solvable. It's not that hard. It's not even expensive. It's just ideologically against the market. It's ideologically against the interests of capitalists, developers, and landlords. So those policies that we need to implement, and they exist in Vienna, they exist in Singapore, they exist in China, they exist in many countries around the world, where you take power away from landlords and developers and you put it in the hands of the government and people to develop housing as a fundamental right, and you get amazing outcomes. And it's the same thing with gun control. Guns should not be in the hands of people that are mentally unstable. It is not that hard to make people jump through a couple of hoops before they own a deadly weapon. If somebody has a mental health crisis, if somebody gets charged with a violent crime, it's not that big a deal to just make sure that their guns are not available. And the reality is, like, Americans want gun control. Americans want gun control. They do. They just don't want their guns taken away. But every time you talk about this issue, it doesn't matter. Now, personally, I think you should give me every gun. Give me a mortar. Give me a nuclear bomb. I can be trusted. Give me a machine gun. Give me javelin missiles. Give me stingers. I can be trusted. Give me a tank. Give me an F-22. Give me an F-35. Give me AMRAAM missiles. Okay? I can be trusted. I'll use them for good. I'll protect my family. Just give me one nuke. Come on, just one. Just one. Come on, come on, come on. Just give me one nuke. Please, please, come on. I can be trusted.
7 News Detroit this morning starts right now with a breaking news alert.
We begin with that breaking news out of Grand Blanc Township. A mass shooting and fire at a church has left at least 4 people dead and 8 others injured. The shooter is also dead.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I'm Kiera Hay.
And I'm Allie Hoxie. The shooting happened just before 10:30 yesterday morning at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Yes,
the suspect is accused of ramming his truck into the building, setting the church on fire and opening fire at parishioners.
It makes no sense. It never will make sense why this kind of thing happens.
Well, now this small-knit community is trying to put the pieces back together. We have 7 News Detroit's anchor Keenan Smith, who is live outside of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints this morning. As we try to dig for some more information, Keenan, what are you seeing right now and what have you learned?
Well, the scene behind me has been busy through the overnight hours and this morning. I'd like to step aside and allow you to see what I can see from here, which sadly is just some slivers of the chars of that building there where this tragedy took place. Also, we can see the blue truck that is certainly going to be the subject of a lot of questions and focal point of this investigation this morning. That blue truck adorned with flags is the truck that investigators say Thomas Jacob Sanford used to ram the truck, then got out and then opened fire on the people inside that church and then set fire to the building. Now, we've been here through a good portion of the night, and we saw investigators and fire crews coming and going throughout the night. We also saw fire crews here with a couple of trucks departing at about 3:30 this morning, roughly 17 hours after the tragedy began unfolding. We also saw an ambulance arrive on scene this morning and then depart a short time later. No lights, no sirens. Investigators say they are still searching for victims in what remains of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints here. They do say that there are some people unaccounted for, but at this point they are not saying how many are still missing. So here's what we know so far. Police say around 10:30 yesterday morning, the suspect, 40-year-old Thomas Jacob Sanford from Burton, rammed his truck into the building, got out, and opened fire. Investigators say he also used an accelerant, possibly gasoline, to set the church on fire. Suspected explosive devices were also found in his truck, but investigators at this point say they're not sure if those devices were actually used in the attack. The FBI is leading the investigation at this point. Now, this morning, as I mentioned, we did see that truck as it was pulled from the side of the church. You can see the front end damage there where the truck collided with the building. And now to the human toll. We know 4 people were killed. 2 of them, we're told, were shot. 2 others were found in the charred debris of the church. But at this point, their cause of death has not yet been determined. 8 others were wounded in the attack, and 1, we're told, is in critical condition this morning. Sunday, Grand Blanc Police Chief William Rainey thanked first responders and churchgoers for their heroism, saying that they prevented even more violence.
They were shielding the children who were also present within the church, moving them to safety. Just hundreds of people just practicing their faith. Extreme courage, brave, and that's the type of community that we are.
Now, police are releasing some information about the suspect. Authorities have identified the shooter as 40-year-old Thomas Jacob Sanford from Burton. Now, according to ABC News, Sanford served as a Marine in the Iraq War from 2004 to 2008. Sanford was shot and killed here on scene at the church behind me. At this point, though, the biggest question that remains is why? Police are still searching for a motive. The FBI, though, is calling this a targeted act of violence. Investigators are holding another press conference today. We expect to learn more from investigators at that point. Of course, we know that this attack has been devastating to the congregation here and to this small community. And we have team coverage this morning of this attack. Brian Marshall is live in Burton, where the suspect lived. He's been gathering information about the suspect and his background as investigators tried to piece together a motive. But let's start with Brittany Toulis, who's been hearing from members of the community shaken by this horrific act. Brittany?
Keenan, devastated, confused.
So it just seems like the guy was super anti-Mormon. So he was a right-wing guy, probably had PTSD, and he got fixated on anti-Mormon content. And then he just went in a paranoid attack on a Mormon church. I mean, this is part of what's making our society is fucking damaged. We're turning out mentally damaged individuals. Like, I'm sorry, but it's an extremist decision. It was motivated by anti-Mormon animus. But the guy is obviously mentally ill. Like, it is what it is.
Heartbroken, shocked. Those are just some of the words I heard when listening to the people who survived this horrific act of violence. 4 churchgoers have died, 8 more are hurt. People inside the building during the Sunday services recount the seconds between the suspect smashing into the building and when he started opening fire.
Counselors was up speaking, and we heard a big bang and the doors flew. And then everybody rushed out.
As soon as we found out that he slammed into the building on purpose, I was pretty sure that then he might come out with guns drawn, and so we started running.
But it was just scary. I mean, I came to worship my Savior Jesus Christ, and I didn't expect this to happen.
Paula and Brian still processing the horror.
Mormonism is the most successful American cult. And although I don't know. I was going to say it's the most successful, but I think Southern Evangelical Protestant is probably the more cult-like. Like, Mormonism is cult-like, but I think it's closer to a formal religion, whereas Southern Evangelical Protestant televangelism is more like a cult. I don't know. It's like, how do you judge the success of a cult?
Others at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints lived through Sunday.
It's American Islam. No, it's not. Muhammad was actually interesting. Joseph Smith was a fucking failed con artist. Like, Muhammad actually was like an interesting guy. You know what I mean? Like, come on. You can kind of understand why Islam blew up. But Joseph Smith was like a blatant and obvious con artist, Lothario, trying to fuck everyone's wife. Like, it just like, come on. Like, it's such a bad religion. Islam was a revolt against Christianity? No, that's too simplistic. I would say that Islam is more of like a syncretic religion that was from a kind of unsettled border region. So it was kind of like, it was a nomadic, which is oftentimes how things happen in world history, is these like nomadic fringe peoples organize and then press in to more developed regions. Like, Muhammad was an interesting character.
Says she left her Fenton home, getting to church before morning services began. After 10:30, chaos erupted as 40-year-old Thomas.
I encourage you to read Joseph Smith's writings. Theology is has been one of my fixations over my life. I know a lot about comparative religion. So trust me, I know Mormonism, okay? Like, come on.
Sanford crashed his truck into the church, set fire to the building, and started shooting, according to officials. We know 4 church members have died, 8 more hurt. The suspect shot and killed by police. Paula says after hearing the crash, she and other churchgoers rushed from inside the building to the parking lot. Brian Taylor and his wife putting Paula and her friend in their car trying to escape the gunfire. That's when Brian says the shooter took aim at him.
Through our windshield and just missed me, and luckily everybody else. I think this is just glass shrapnel that got me.
And I've lost friends in there.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
And some of my little primary children that I teach on Sundays were hurt.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
So it's very devastating for me.
And of the 8 people hurt, 1 is still fighting for their life. But we know in incidents like this, the physical wounds will heal, but the mental and emotional wounds will still be there. If you're in the community and do want someone to talk to, there are services out there. There's going to be them throughout the community during the week, and we have those locations and times right on WXYZ.com. But for now, live in Grand Blanc, I'm Brittany Toulis for 7 News Detroit this morning. Keenan?
All right, thank you, Brittany. Now, the suspect in the shooting, 40-year-old Thomas Jacob Sanford, is from Burton, about 8 miles or so away from here. He was killed by police during this attack. And the focus of this investigation is shifting to learning more about Sanford and why he would commit such a horrific act. Law enforcement officers were seen searching his home in Burton for hours yesterday. And that's where we find 7 News Detroit reporter Ryan Marshall this morning. And Ryan, what do we know about the suspect in this case and his background?
Well, not much this morning. Good morning to you. Good morning, everybody out there. We do know that state and federal authorities raided his home on the other side of this wooded area. We're in an empty church parking lot right now because it's a little bit safer out here. Very dark area, but certainly they raided his home yesterday, and they believe he is certainly responsible for that horrible attack on that church in Grand Blanc Township. As we rolled a video, authorities, they have identified him as 40-year-old Burton resident Thomas Jacob Sanford. And according to ABC News, Sanford is an ex-Marine who was an Iraqi war veteran and served for 4 years from 2004 to 2008. Now, the suspect's home here in Burton is about 8 miles away from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The Michigan State Police bomb squad initially sat outside of his home for several hours before they entered. And then after that, after the bomb squad left, investigators then went inside to search for evidence and a possible motive. Now, the FBI confirmed there were suspected explosive devices found at the church, so it's not a stretch to assume authorities were here looking for more of the same explosive devices inside of his home. And 7 News Detroit talked to neighbors about the man Sanford.
When he came over here, he was real nice, man. He's my best neighbor I ever had, I think, in a long time, but I don't know what happened to him and why he done it. He was a good guy. I mean, he was friendly as heck. He'd come over here and ask you, want me to do your plow out the driveway? And I said, yeah, heck yeah. Oh, if it's really bad, because, you know, you watch on TV all the time, like it happening, it happens.
Everybody's like, this guy was so nice. What the fuck?
You know, it's like...
By the way, chat, like, can I just say this? Poor people are poor. And the reason why the left is losing in America is because if somebody's poor, they're no more likely to be a member of the left than they are of the right. We have declassed our politics. And part of the reason our politics is declassed is because so many of the people in charge of the left are classist, fucking, overeducated, effete motherfuckers. Like millions of Americans, this guy can't afford dental treatment. That's pretty sad and disgusting. And I haven't seen, did I miss something? Did he say something that was right wing? Like, did I miss it? Why are we being classist and nasty? Because this guy's poor.
Wow. He's getting close to home.
Don't know the suspect, but I just was speaking with somebody in the church parking lot back over here that is a really good friend of his. Said he was a true stand-up guy, would do anything for anybody, and he has no clue why something like this, you know, would happen or why he would go this way because of the type of person he was.
All right, back out here live now. That's the big question. Why did he do this? We don't know a motive for this horrible attack. Also, some other questions. What was the connection to the church? Was he a member of the church? They did identify, authorities have identified this as a targeted attack. Also, did he act alone or was there anybody else assisting him throughout this? Hopefully we can get those answers in the near future. But in the meantime, the FBI is leading this investigation. They say if you have any information, you are urged to call 1-800-CALL-FBI, or you can visit online at tips.fbi.gov. We're here live in Burton. I'm Ryan Marshall for 7 News Detroit this morning.
And Ryan, it is so difficult to reconcile the description of the suspect that you just shared with us with the act of violence that took place back behind me. People describing him as a great neighbor, but then we look here.
I mean, this is mental illness. This is mental illness. It's so weird. So weird.
At the charred remains of this building, and indeed the question is why? Now, we know that there were people trapped in this building, far too many, and separated from their loved ones in the chaos. If you are searching for a loved one, there is a number that you can call. It's right there on your screen, 248-705-7352. Again, that number is 248-705-7352. At this point, authorities are asking that you only call that number if you're looking for a direct family member. Of course, there are still a lot of questions to be answered here, and that will take a long time, if ever, to find those answers. Well, that's the very latest here in Grand Blanc. Kiara, Allie, back to you guys.
Yeah, Keenan, and we know there are still people that are unaccounted for. We don't know how many, but we are expecting another update from police later on this morning.
Yeah, Keenan, thank you so much. Absolutely devastated for those impacted. And there are still so many questions, as Keenan said, about this tragedy, and we are working to learn more. Stick with us here on air and on our website, WXYZ.com, as we get.
It's a pretty straightforward case of mental illness. If only he would have called someone or taken action for his own mental health. I mean, it's just, I'm sorry, guys, but this is simply the over-availability of weapons to mentally ill people. And this guy probably had some sort of PTSD.
Right now, we're following more breaking news out of Grand Blanc Township in Michigan, where 4 people were killed Sunday in a church attack. Police are swarming a vehicle that just drove through a barricade. I want to go live right now to CNN's Lee Waldman. She's on the scene for us. What do you know, Lee? What is happening?
Wolf, just shortly after we spoke to you moments ago, we looked and we saw officers running from what appears to be the command center here, running towards the barricade that's in place there. And you can see that red vehicle that they're still inspecting. We can see it appears to be FBI agents there. We've seen state police who was there, and we heard officers talking. They said that the man drove through a barricade and there was a gun in the front seat of that car. Now, we have colleagues who are at a different angle. They got some video as well, and from their video, it appears that this is some kind of a long gun in the front seat of that vehicle. Now, officers, again, overhearing what they were talking about, they said that they have that man in custody. We believe he is in that police vehicle that's right besides that red vehicle there that you can see officers still focusing on there. Now, we did some brief research before talking to you, Wolf, and we know that Michigan does have an open carry law here. You still are required to have a background check in order to purchase a weapon. To have concealed carry, you have to have a specialized license for that. But we do know at this point that this vehicle attempted to drive through the barricade where officers stopped the man inside and they noticed that gun. I also want to show you, Wolf, how close we are, if we can, to the church itself. We're just down the street from where this attack happened at this church Sunday morning. So obviously this is a heightened security situation. The street is filled with different law enforcement vehicles, and this red vehicle here with a driver inside attempted to make their way down the street here. Obviously not a lot more information we can bring you, Wolf. We know that.
Thoughts on a blanket law that makes it illegal for all men, including police, to have any gun? Unfortunately, that wouldn't work because men would steal their guns from their girlfriends that they abuse, and or their mothers.
At this point, Wolf, no.
Honestly, it would probably significantly reduce gun violence. I mean, I think is it 90 or 95% of murders are committed by men? Oh, okay. 90% of murder. They're only the victims 77% of the time. Like, this is how you know men are in dominant position in society. Can you imagine if a minority group did 90%, any other minority group? Because reminder, men are in the minority. If there was any other minority group that could do 90% of the murders and nobody would point it out, Euro cucks. Yeah. Why does shooting happen daily in America? Because the answer to that is, one, America is highly, is a terrible society without a social safety net. That means many more people are in the final stages of desperation in this country than almost any other developed or developing country. There's many more people that are literally so much in pain, starving, desperate to find shelter or privacy. Like, there's so many more people that are driven to the edge of madness because they don't have their basic needs met. That's number one. Guns are ubiquitous and can be bought without any background check whatsoever for an extremely low price. Okay. And then three, we have a lot of people that are suffering from severe, complex, traumatic post stress disorders. A lot of people are desperate and left behind. A lot of people are mentally ill, and guns are ubiquitous and available to anyone for an extremely low price. So there you have it. It's not that complicated.
We're not hearing any injuries. We didn't see EMS rushing to the scene here. What we saw was a group of officers, some running from down the street, others running from what appears to be this command center here. You can see large tractor trailers in place, officers going in and out of that building there, using it as a station point here to conduct their investigation. We just saw those officers running down the street, so we started to run too, trying to get the latest information to bring to all of you. The situation much calmer now than it was even just 10 minutes ago.
All right, Lee Waldman, thank you very much for that update. Stay safe over there. We'll be in close touch with you. I want to get some perspective right now, some law enforcement perspective from Jason Armstrong, I should say. He's a former police chief of Ferguson, Missouri. He understands what's going on. Thanks very much for joining us. What do you make of this driver that officers just took into custody at the police barricade with some sort of weapon in the front seat?
Whenever we have a critical incident like what we experienced yesterday.
A critical incident. Guys, we've got a critical incident. We've got a mass casualty event. Guys, our critical incident. Don't you see our critical incident is happening? Good point on it being cheap. Would it make sense to tax the shit out of gun ownership and purchases to reduce the availability of guns? Yes, of course. We need to have taxes on guns. We need to have taxes on bullets. We need to have insurance policies required. There's a million fucking things you can do to make guns something that you do if you are a responsible, well-adjusted, mentally sane person. But the other thing is we have to treat the symptoms of mental disorder. We have to provide a universal social safety net. We have to stop sending people to foreign wars where they get brain damage. We need to clean up the environment. And we need to make sure that people have health care and mental health treatment and housing and food and health care, leisure, dignity, education, and most of all, everything that makes a person happy is getting less available to people in this country. Everything. When you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which for me is very evocative because it just... Okay, this one seems like a good one. Okay, this is an incredibly small fit. Can we get a bigger picture, please? Thank you. In America, people are struggling with basic physiological and safety needs. And if you do manage to get these taken care of, you know, personal security, health and well-being, stable environment, financial security, safety nets, air, water, food, shelter, housing, clothing, sleep, reproduction. Like if you get this, people were failing on this. Family, friendship, community, romantic relationships, group membership, affection, intimacy. I mean, there is a crisis in every part of the human experience under capitalism. And the only people I know that are up here with me are fucking socialists. Literally. The only people I know that have creativity, personal growth, moral development, pursuit of meaning, purpose-driven action, peak experience, joy, transcendence, insight. These are my socialist friends. Self-respect, confidence, respect from others, reputation, recognition and achievement. I mean, you could see the capitalists. How many capitalists do you see mauling over Hassan getting articles in the New York Times and you know, I bring on candidates for governor. I bring on congresswomen. I bring on internationally prestigious journalists. Like we have this. That's what the socialist movement promises you. Every fucking thing. Recognition that we can only live good lives with each other. I can't live like a fucking orb on a pile of dragon wealth. Thanks, Meta, for proving grievances get more clicks for ad revenue. I mean, I don't know. I'm doing okay. I mean, I'm doing well where the algorithm is not literally designed to choke me to death. I got kicked out of a doctor's office for not being able to pay. I'm not even kidding. Fuck this fucked ass country. Okay, so what I really do recommend that, oh man, I mean, gosh. Medical schools, dental schools, free clinics, making sure you sign up for every single program you can find. I'm not trying to say pull yourself up by your bootstraps. I'm just trying to give you something to do. Like we've talked about Maslow's a lot, and it's just like, you're not an island. You're not going to succeed and a bunch of other people fail. You could only succeed with other people. And the more people we take care of, the better we do. This is something that I talk about a lot. We haven't talked about education for a while because it's not been politically relevant, but something I like to talk about a lot is the experience of Finland with their public education system. They banned private school tuition. And do you know what happened to their education system? It went from being 30th in the world to #1 because people were forced to improve the schools because their kids were going there. And so every school became a good school. They aimed for equity and they got excellence. They aimed for fairness and they had got achievement. In America, we aim for excellence. We aim for the cream of the crop. We throw millions of kids into the fucking wood chipper because we don't consider their potential. And we get decay. We get failure. We get collapse. And I think a lot of this comes from self-hatred. A lot of people in America have self-hatred, or they're ashamed of where they come from. And so to distance themselves from other people, they put those people into a fucking wood chipper. And by doing so, they reduce their own personal safety net. They reduce their own potential. Those are your people. You're killing your own people. It's why I really don't like individual expressions of empathy. That doesn't make me feel like you're a good person. A good person is somebody who puts the time and effort into understanding why there is oppression in our world. A good person is someone who thinks about shit before they do it. A person who goes, it's not a person who hands a check to a charity once. It's somebody whose entire political project is about making those charities unnecessary. But we don't have that shit. On Struggle 4 the other day, we were watching Asada Shakur interview in 92, which struck how fulfilled she seemed living in Cuba despite still facing challenges. By living in a socialist state, the first 3 rungs of the pyramid were guaranteed. And here's the thing about Cuba. Cuba is under siege. It's under siege by the world superpower. It has been for over 60 years. And they have persevered to the power of solidarity. That's crazy. Meanwhile, Argentina is collapsing. The libertarian right experiment is needing a $20 billion bailout. Is that even covered in the news? Are we even covering this shit? Where's the fucking news? Did it even get covered? I'm sorry, I misspelled Argentina. Like, where the fuck is the coverage? We gave $20 billion of free money to Argentina. No one talks about it.
Thank you very much. Por encima de la inflación.
Milei is losing ground to the opposition.
He's doing a really good job.
And I think the US doesn't want to lose Argentina standpoint. I think there's a political push here from the Trump administration to show that the dollar can do so much good for a country.
Donald Trump has pledged his support to the Argentine president.
Can you imagine us handing $20 billion in cash to Cuba? Can you imagine us handing $20 billion in cash to Venezuela? $20 billion because they're cutting schooling and healthcare, and it crashed the fucking economy. But in Cuba, they have so many doctors they've trained that they have a better health outcomes than we do, spending a 20th of the money.
And his 2 years of radical economic policies that aim to pull that inflation-plagued country back from the brink. To find out what this support and news from the World Bank means for South America's second-largest economy, we turn to Alicia Garcia Herrero. She covered Argentina at the IMF previously, and now she's the chief economist for Asia Pacific at the French investment bank Natixis. Alicia, before...
Oh, yeah, I guess before we go into this bailout, we should look at the... A Trump administration official looking at his phone, he said, finally, just a heads up, I'm getting more blank, but that's highly unfortunate. We bailed out Argentina president, and in return, the Argentine removed their export tariffs on grains, reducing their price, and sold a ton of soybeans to China at a time when we would normally be selling to China. Soy prices dropping further because of it. This gives China more leverage over us. If you guys understood how much China is winning, I almost want to show you. It's Jover. There's so many slop channels. Jesus fucking Christ. The Slav channels are insane.
Aerial warfare is a decisive element in any modern-day conflict.
一些国家在我们周边部署了数百架这样的隐身战机，这是在逼着我们服软。
From the prop planes of World War II to today's high-tech fighter jets flying in the skies over Ukraine or Iran, aerial forces continue to drive defense spending. And in the global contest between two of the world's great powers, the race is on to be the first to develop the next generation.
One of the things that people cope is they say, oh, the US has a bigger GDP. But the thing is, in purchasing power parity pricing, like if I buy a fighter jet, the same exact fighter jet built in China versus the same exact fighter jet built in America, the fighter jet in America is going to be worth 4 times more. I'll have to pay 4 times more, but I'm not richer. Okay? Just because it costs me 4 times more doesn't mean I'm richer than the Chinese people. You understand that? They have a fighter jet. I have a fighter jet. When we're in a war, my fighter jet being 4 times more expensive for worse performance means I'm losing. But that's the cope, is that everything is now valued in US dollars because the United States has the global reserve currency that has control of the financial system of international trade, which makes our stuff look more expensive or more valuable than it actually is. And the US dollar is collapsing. People are selling that shit. They're rotating out of the dollar. The dollar is getting weaker. And China also does things that the US doesn't do. According to purchasing power parity, China has the largest economy in the world with $40 trillion economy. Wow. But Americans stopped talking about purchasing power parity, I guess. You know, I guess. And if you look at China, you know it's true. You know it's true. Oh, fuck did I? Okay, there it is.
In fighter jet.
The enemy's new 5th generation fighter has leveled the playing field.
The next iteration of fighter jets is a 6th generation fighter, versions of which are currently under development in China, the US, Russia, as well as in the UK and Europe. In the US, the world's only global air power, the F-47 remains shrouded in mystery.
You see how beautiful that is, but that's just a very small part of it. Sure. Jet, there's never been anything even close to it, from speed to maneuverability to what it can have to payload.
But in China,
one of the things that's really interesting about this picture is you could tell it's been altered. Are there vertical stabilizers? You see these like twin shadows? We can't even tell if it has vertical stabilizers or not. It looks to me like it has canards. The most common fighter jets in the U.S. military are the 16 and the 18. The 16 is a bad plane. The 16 is an inferior jet. The F-16 is dog shit. And if we're fighting against China from Japan with F-16s, we're beyond cooked. The F-16 is only impressive against sheep herders and people without any military. The F-16 will get absolutely erased from existence in an actual fight. The F-18 is marginally better. Now, people like the F-16 because it when you strip it of all weapons and you put it into, and it's just doing like loop-the-loops over the airport, it looks fun. But it is short-ranged, single-engined, which means slow. And its maneuverability tanks when you put a bunch of munitions on it. It's dog shit. It's fun if you like acrobatics, though.
Speed to maneuverability to what it can have to payload.
But in China, the nation's own 6th-gen fighters have been seen flying high. Videos of not just one, but 2 of China's cutting-edge combat aircraft were spotted in the sky.
These aircraft are part of an overall whole of service approach to...
Aren't traditional dogfights mostly a thing of the past, with most engagements happening at beyond visual range? That's why China's got an even bigger advantage, because the United States doesn't have enough stealth fighters. And our missiles are outranged by Chinese missiles. Chinese missiles are longer range. So they fire first from further away with stealthier planes. We're in trouble.
Advancing PLA Air Force capabilities. And that is part of an overall competition in military air capabilities against the US and other nations in the region.
So can China pull ahead in the race to control the skies? China's People's Liberation Army Air Force has come a long way. For most of its history, China's military was first and foremost a ground-based force. The PLA Air Force in its...
And the Chinese Air Force's F-16 equivalent just shot down 6 Russian and European planes. Pakistan, flying the export version of China's F-16 equivalent, just shot down a bunch of French and Russian planes in India, completely smoked their asses. And they did it using China's export version of their AMRAAM air-to-air missile equivalent. And they have even better missiles that are being developed that far outrange the U.S. We're in trouble. Like, the U.S. Air Force is in trouble because they can't build anything.
Early days inherited aircraft from the former Soviet Union and licensed Soviet designs. Rick Zhou is an analyst of China's military development. He spoke with us on the condition that he would not appear on camera.
After the Sino-Soviet split, the PLA and China as a whole did not quite have access to the Soviet technology. They were cut off. So for much of the mid to late Cold War, they were forced to first try to develop their own industry by reverse engineering Soviet technology and Soviet aircraft, and then in turn trying to advance their own industry.
In 4 decades, China went from designing and producing third-generation aircraft such as the J-8 to 4th and 4.5 generation fighters like the J-11, J-10, or J-16. Today, they're even fielding some of the most advanced jets currently in operation, like the 5th generation J-20, a plane dubbed the Mighty Dragon. Now China is stepping up its game by working on these 6th generation planes. Everything surrounding these prototypes is still the subject of rumors and speculation, right down to their very names. This larger aircraft being developed by Chengdu Aircraft.
I'm pretty sure it has 2. I thought it had people sitting next to each other, but maybe I'm crazy. Maybe it's the other one. I thought they were dual. They had 2. They had a Wizzo and a pilot. And yeah, it's a flying wing, and it has 3 engines. So the goal is to be super stealthy, fire your missiles beyond visual range, and then fucking scoot much faster than the American planes. So you kind of like show, it's like when a fighter has a longer reach than the other. If he just sits out there at the edge of his reach, maintains distance with the other fighter, and just peppers him, he's going to wear him down. And then you never take any incoming damage.
Corporation is tentatively called the J-36. Meanwhile, this aircraft design from the Shenyang Aircraft Corporation has been named J-50 by PLA watchers.
The J-36 I personally view as a more ambitious next generation air superiority combat aircraft system, in the sense that it not only should feature greater range and payload.
Why focus on manned fighter planes and not drones? Actually, China is way ahead of that as well. If you watch the military parade on this stream, China showed a bunch of stealth drones, which the US has pretty much given up on. Hold on, where is it? Let me find it. Hold on. Hold on, I think it's somewhere around here. Hold on, I think it's right here. Hold on. Honestly, this was better. Hold on. I like the other one we saw. It's like, hold on. I liked this one is the better the one with the explainers. They're the
building a assistance military increases the leadership and command systems of the military. They are ever prepared to fight and carry out the missions of the people's military in coordination with the active duty forces in the new era.
Mike, your China love is weird. One machine gun breaks any frog marching crew. They have more machine guns, man. That's the whole point. China has they can build 80 times as many ships as we can. They can build, they are the world's fucking factory. They're going to have more of everything. They also have more people. So they can replace losses, and they have more. So having discipline on top of that is even bigger advantage.
The army and the people are the foundation of victory. Now marching forward is the militia formation. The militia women are from the major wartime counter-Japanese base areas across China. During the War of Resistance, Chinese people, regardless of their gender or ages, acted as one in safeguarding their homes. The red jeans
woke army
have passed on from one generation to another. In the new era, the militia forces provide backup services during peaceful time.
China has been contributing to maintaining world peace. The peacekeeping force formation is marching towards us. China is the largest troop-contributing country for peacekeeping among the permanent members of the UN Security Council. Having participated in UN peacekeeping operations for 35 years, the Chinese peacekeeping forces have confronted daunting challenges and fulfilled their missions. The forces have guarded world peace without hesitating to sacrifice their lives, and demonstrated through their action how China assumes its responsibility as a major power, making great contributions to building a community with a shared future for humanity.
Hold on.
J16
as fighter
included. Here we go. One too far.
Can attack in a way that is difficult to be detected and can automatically coordinate with one another, creating a new model of future-oriented aerial combat scenario.
So basically, China is doing this thing where they have what are called loyal wingman drones. So they're going to have stealth planes, like the fighter jets we were showing, and then they're going to have these drone wingman that are going to be coordinated by the Wizzo who's on the plane, right? So you'll have these drones that will like cover your back, and you could also put the drones way forward to launch attacks at the other side's air force. The loyal wingman drones are going, so each one of their like fighter jets is going to be heading an element of these kind of loyal wingman drones, these stealth drones, which are going to be very difficult for opposing air forces to counter.
More importantly, it should feature much greater onboard power generation, as well as command and control capabilities and electronic warfare capabilities than the J-50.
The J-36 is a huge jet with a length estimated to be up to 22 meters and a wingspan of 20 meters. Early reports say it's a 3-engine jet, allowing the plane to cruise at supersonic speeds and reach a combat radius of up to 3,000 kilometers, according to some estimates. Its payload is also estimated to be double that of current 5th-generation fighter jets. But the sheer size of the plane...
So one of the advantages here is... So it has this very long and wide weapons bay. So the new... Because we have new technology for beyond visual range, the new anti-air missiles are very long. So being able to carry them internally massively increases a person's the difficulty in detecting them with, you know, radar systems and AWACS. But because they have such a long weapons bay, it can carry extremely long-range air-to-air missiles so that it could fire first and be detected late.
plane and its lack of a tail also suggest it could be used as a stealthy command center for drones.
Whether it's your 4.5 gen aircraft, 5th gen aircraft that exist today, new variant 5th gen aircraft that are emerging, as well as quote-unquote 6th gen aircraft, next gen aircraft such as the J-36 or J-50. I expect they will all have a degree of drone command capability. However, I do believe that J-36, by virtue of being a much larger aircraft, much more onboard power generation and processing capabilities, I suspect J-36 is going to have an even greater focus on command and control and drone control than the J-50 will.
Drones like the FH-97 are the latest development in aerial combat. The drones can scout and strike, improving the survivability of both pilots and manned aircraft. On the other hand, the J-50's smaller size could mean it'll carry out a more traditional fighting role. However, the plane's unusual tailless design will make it harder to maneuver than current fifth-generation fighters. So how would these fancy-looking planes fare in actual combat? A possible proving ground would be the skies over Taiwan. With China-U.S. rivalry deepening, rhetoric about reunification of the self-ruled island with the mainland is a common theme in Chinese state.
And if anybody's like, oh my God, no, what will we do if Taiwan gets unified with the country? What did you do when Hong Kong got unified? What did you do when Macau got unified? Did it destroy your fucking world? Did your world explode? Did you notice? Did nothing happen? Did no one fucking care? Was it completely fine? So why don't we just mind our own fucking business? We're the one who created this whole entire thing. We're the one who stuck the U.S. Navy and intervened in the Chinese Civil War. Imagine if the British Navy, like the Confederate Southerners, had fled to Puerto Rico and started killing all the native Puerto Ricans and installed their own government and said, we're the real U.S. government. And then the U.S. the British Imperial Navy had come and stood between U.S. Navy ships and the Confederates who now colonized Puerto Rico. That's Taiwan, okay? Except Taiwan was more part of China than Puerto Rico ever was part of the U.S. It's not even a good example because Puerto Rico is not really, it's a colonized place that's not connected to the U.S., whereas Taiwan has been part of China for centuries. But you get my point. Like, it's Taiwan, part of China. It's not our fucking business. And just like when Hong Kong was returned to China or Macau was returned to China, it didn't affect us at all. And we should not be threatening World War III over this shit. That's crazy.
Media and official speeches.
台湾是中国的神圣领土，历史的车轮谁都无法阻挡。
No one can stop the march of history.
In the event of a conflict over Taiwan, China would aim to neutralize any U.S. intervention. This would require the development of Chinese military capabilities that could match or defeat U.S. aerial forces and ensure control of the first island chain.
The Chinese Air Force giving part of the mission is to defend the country's sovereign rights and interests. Hence, the first island chain is also considered China's backyard in a way. So, first stage or primary.
The reason why they call this the first island chain is because it's about blockading China. So you see this dotted line? This is the U.S. Navy's strategy to blockade China's coasts. Okay? So that is and there are U.S. bases all over here. Actually, you know who was a really good person of explaining this so you can see how it's all aggressively anti-China? What's his name? CIA Harris. I haven't watched his videos in so long. Johnny Harris, thank you. Does he still make videos? I'm trying to, oh.
Look at this map of the most disputed water in the world.
Okay, hold on. I think he had a section where he was like, you could almost look at this as like America containing China.
To start drilling presence and controlling them completely. Better for one big exception.
This isn't the one I was thinking of because there was one where he had like a really fun, it had like a map of all the U.S. installations. Every CIA prison explained. Yeah.
Underlying all this stuff about the need of nuclear power is the idea that China has either threatened us or will threaten us. This is a distortion and it's untrue. China does not threaten the United States. Nobody can threaten the United States. It's got It's got 10,000 kilometres of sea between the Chinese coast and California. It's got the Atlantic Ocean on the other side. It has a massive country with in space, land mass, and friends in Canada on the north and Mexico on the south, and the greatest armaments in all history. China has committed, in the eyes of the United States, the great sin of internationalism. And what is that sin? To develop an economy as big as the United States. That's the sin. They've got as big as the US. The Americans will never condone or accept a state.
Oh my God, he's doing it. I'm making a map explainer video about the history of Taiwan PRC and the Cold War in Asia, telling from the 1940s to modern day. I want to hear from this issue, whether you're from Taiwan or have connections to the region or professional academic expertise. He wants to make a CIA propaganda video. Notice that he doesn't talk about, okay, so Korean War, white terror, US PRC normalization, strategic ambiguity, modern tensions. White terror. Uh-oh. How are we going to whitewash another genocide? He's got a tough job.
First stage or primarily goal of the Air Forces to be able to gain air superiority over these areas.
Beijing, which views Taiwan as part of its territory to be reunited by force if necessary, conducts regular military drills around the island. Most countries, including the U.S., do not recognize Taiwan as an independent state. But the U.S. says it opposes any attempt to take the self-ruled island by force and is committed to sending weapons to Taiwan. The Taiwanese Air Force also flies fourth-generation jets, such as the locally produced FCK-1 and U.S.-made F-16s. Military analysts expect China would likely try to destroy Taiwan's aerial capabilities on the ground before the island has a chance to engage the PLA Air Force in combat. The U.S. has a strong military presence in the region, notably...
I wasn't going to watch Peacemaker, but then I saw this, and I was like, this...
你好，中国，这是叫西娜。我必须说，现在，在速度与激情中，我做很多采访，很多，所以在一个采访，我有一个错误，所有人问我，如果我可以用中文，速度与激情中人给我很多资讯 information。所以很多采访，很多 information， 我有一个错误，我必须说现在就是很重要，我爱更尊重中国跟中国人，我很抱歉对我的错误，对不起，我很抱歉，你必须了解，我很爱。很尊重中国跟中国人，不好意思，再见。
Hell yeah, brother. His mistake was saying that Taiwan was a country.
South Korea and the Philippines.
Like
Washington's Air Force and Navy also fly some of the most advanced aircraft and combat systems, such as the F-22 and F-35, and soon the world's first next-generation bomber, the B-21.
The amount of money that's being wasted on this dumbass shit is so fucking...
Strong Air Force would greatly increase China's ability to gain a control in this area militarily. Basically, it's already, the current plane fleet, such as J-20, J-35, they may probably already be sufficient to give China a upper hand within this area compared to other countries like Japan. But a next generation fighter, they ensure this continued competition with competitors like the United States.
This is how a possible confrontation using China's sixth-generation fighter could go.
The J-36, given its large size, it could work as a long-range penetrating bomber striker as well as a fighter, so that it can strike those targets maybe even within the second island chain on land or at sea, to create a safety corridor for the Chinese Navy and Air Force. about J-50, it potentially being used on an aircraft carrier, for example.
Today, any wartime plans are just that, plans and speculation. There is no evidence that either side is closer to conflict or that a military attack is imminent. There's also no information about how many sixth-generation aircraft the PLA Air Force will eventually procure.
Hopefully as many as they can.
But one thing is certain. Future wars will feature a new class of fighter jets.
In the US, I believe that the military budget should be 0% of GDP. In China, it should be 20%.
Capabilities previously unseen in combat.
Every DSA branch should have their own J-35 fighter squadron. All right, God damn it. Donald Trump is with Netanyahu. Don't get banned, 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 don't ban. All right. I'm in the mindset. I'm in the mindset.
President of the United States and the Prime Minister of the State of Israel.
Don't get banned, don't get banned, don't get banned.
Thank you very much, everybody. So this is a big, big day, a beautiful day, potentially one of the great days.
Donald Trump is very demonic. Donald Trump is very demonic. Donald Trump is very demonic.
Ever in civilization. Things that have been going on for hundreds of years and thousands of years. At least we're at a minimum very, very close, and I think we're beyond very close. And I want to thank Bibi for really getting in there and doing a job. We've worked well together, as we have with many other countries, both of us, with many other countries, which is the only way this...
Well, chat, it was nice knowing you, but looks like I'm going on it looks like I'm going on a watch list. Trump NSPM 7 alarms law firms while Congress is silent. Domestic terror watch list to double, sources say. Washington's biggest law firms are issuing memoranda on the implications of NSPM 7, Trump's new national security directive, yet virtually no one in Congress has bothered to say a thing. The little the mainstream media have said about NSPM 7 has so far been wrong, often downplaying it. Sources tell me that the NSPM 7 will likely cause the domestic terrorism watch list, currently 5,000 U.S. citizens, to double in coming months. Last Thursday, President Donald Trump issued National Security Presidential Memorandum 7, titled Countering Domestic Terrorism and Organized Political Violence. It creates a national strategy to investigate, prosecute, and dismantle organized political violence and domestic terrorism, identifying indicators of potential domestic terrorists as the expression of, quote, anti-Christian, anti-capitalism, or anti-American views. NSPM 7 directs the federal government to disrupt groups before they result in violent political acts. In other words, pre-crime. Law firms like Arnold and Porter, Wilmer Hale, Chaplin and Drysdale, Aiken Gump, and Elias Law Group swiftly responded to NSPM 7 by issuing guidances explaining the implications for nonprofits and other organizations that are among their clientele. To date, though, almost no members of Congress have commented on NSPM 7. I reached out to the following congressional leaders for a statement, but received nothing. Chuck Schumer, Mark Warner, Gary Peters, Hakeem Jeffries, Jim Himes, Jamie Raskin, and Stephen Lynch. Rep. Benny Thompson, ranking member of the Homeland Affairs Committee, responded with the following statement. Just like with Trump's reckless and incorrect Antifa designation, his domestic terrorism memorandum serves no purpose other than an excuse for the Trump administration to stifle dissent, investigate anyone or any group they don't like, punish their enemies, and potentially label any American they want as a terrorist. But the National Security Directive is far more consequential. It directs the countrywide network of Joint Terrorism Task Force to characterize, surveil, and conduct actions toward organizations and individuals espousing the domestic terrorism indicators described above: anti-Christian, anti-capitalism, and anti-American rhetoric. Has there actually been a single one of the attacks based on this? Has there been a single attack based on these? Legal heavyweights from Atkin Gump to Wilmer Hare warn that NSPM 7 is not mere rhetorical theater, presents real danger for tax-exempt organizations. Arnold and Porter, a heavyweight at Washington's legal policy circle, says the stakes are high, cautioning that NSPM 7 signals Justice Department plans to target tax-exempt organizations and their funders for criminal investigations based on actions historically protected by the First Amendment. The presidential memorandum makes clear that the DOJ intends to target tax-exempt organizations and their funders for investigation and potential criminal prosecution. Even the indirect financing of political violence could provoke liability, they warn. Their analysis further notes that the memo doesn't just threaten fringe actors, it stretches to organizations seen as supporting, quote, progressive causes, suggesting the scope could well include mainstream nonprofit advocacy. This runs contrary to the Trump administration's framing of the crackdown as merely focused on extremist or radical elements. Directs the National Joint Terrorism Task Force to investigate, prosecute. And what can you say, chap? Progressives like me have said these Joint Terrorism Task Force are going to be used on Americans. We're doing turnkey authoritarianism. We should dismantle this shit. And every fucking centrist liberal from Biden to Obama did nothing but promote it and then make it permanent and grow it. And now it's being used to investigate regular groups at home. Amazing. Foreign linked actors, whatever that fucking means. Warren said under NSPM 7, the government may interrogate individuals about financial sponsorship of protests or political activity. That's a troubling signal that organizations opposing the administration may face investigations, punitive measures, or revocations of tax status. At a minimum, such politically motivated investigations would bog down targeted organizations with legal costs and compliance headaches, all while detracting from their missions. Maybe someday, eventually, Congress will take notice. No, they won't. They support it. They've been complaining about the groups for a while now.
This whole situation gets solved. And I'm not just talking about Gaza. Gaza is one thing, but we're talking about much beyond Gaza. The whole deal, everything getting solved. It's called peace in the Middle East. So today is a historic day for peace, and Prime Minister Netanyahu and I have just concluded an important meeting on many vital issues, including Iran, trade, the expansion of the Abraham Accords, and most importantly, we discussed how to end the war in Gaza, but it's just a part of the bigger picture, which is peace in the Middle East, and let's call it eternal peace in the Middle East. So this is far more than anybody expected, but the level of support that I've had from the nations in the Middle East and surrounding Israel and neighbors of Israel has been incredible, incredible. Every single one of them. This afternoon, after extensive consultation with our friends and partners throughout the region, I'm formally releasing our principles for peace, which people have really liked, I must say. And these are done not just routinely done, these are done with total consideration and working with the nations that we're talking about. All of these nations have made contributions to those suggestions. I want to thank the leaders of many Arab and Muslim nations for their tremendous support in developing the proposal, along with many of our allies in Europe. Europe has been very much involved, and as I was called by many of the European leaders, most of them saying, is this true? Are you really doing peace in the Middle East? This is the most incredible thing we've heard. Some think it's the biggest thing they've ever heard. They called just to find out, was it just a rumor or is it actually done? And then they said, have you spoken to the Arab leaders? Have you spoken to...
Is supporting Israel in the interest of the United States. This is me. This is me. This is Hassan. This is all of you who have raised your voices. This is, see this cratering of independent and progressive support? And we got a long way to go, baby. We're going to bend this curve till it's at zero. I'm sorry for yelling. I'm getting hyped. I'm fucking hyped, okay? I'm fucking hyped. I have like one word and I'm screaming. I'm never, ever, ever gonna let people get away with this supporting the genocidal apartheid state of Israel. We're never gonna forget. We're never gonna forget. We're never going to forget.
All of the other leaders that we have to get, a lot of people involved in this one. I also want to thank Prime Minister Netanyahu for agreeing to the plan and for trusting that if we work together, we can bring an end to the death and destruction that we've seen for so many years, decades, even centuries, and begin a new chapter of security, peace, and prosperity for the entire region. And I want to just say that my meetings and dialogue that we had with so many countries, Saudi Arabia as an example, the king is a phenomenal person. The Emir of Qatar, he's an incredible people. UAE, and that's MBZ and ABZ, We're totally involved. These are the people that we've been dealing with and who've been actually very much involved in this negotiation, giving us ideas, things they can live with, things they can't live with. Pretty complex. I mean, after 2,000, 3,000 years, whatever it is, I guess it's got to be a little complex, or it would have been done a long time ago. The King of Jordan was with us, as you know, in the United Nations. The President of Turkey, President Erdogan, is a friend of mine, a strong man, but a good man. President of Indonesia, somebody who's an amazing leader, Prabowo. He is an amazing leader and respected by everybody. He was in the room with us. We were together with most of these people that I'm mentioning. Others were by phone or the next day. The Prime Minister and the Field Marshal of Pakistan, they were with us right from the beginning. Incredible. In fact, they just put out a statement that they fully believe in this. It just came out just as I was walking around. They said, sir, you have notice from the Prime Minister of Pakistan and from the Field Marshal that they back this 100%. President El-Sisi of Egypt, who's terrific. And these are people I've gotten to know over the years. I mean, I would say it started around 2015 and then went into 2016 when the presidency officially began. But I've known him actually for a long time, and there are many cases really great men. I can't say in all cases, but I will tell you in many cases they're great men and some great women too. They tend to be mostly men, however, I will say that. If accepted by Hamas, this proposal calls for the release of all remaining hostages immediately, but in no case more than 72 hours. So the hostages are coming back, and I hate even saying this from the standpoint, doesn't sound right, but it is so important to the parents. The bodies of the young men, I believe in almost all cases, the young men are coming back immediately. I met with parents. The parents felt as strongly about getting the body of their dead boy back as they did as though the boy were alive and well. It's so important to them. And it means the immediate end to the war itself, not just Gaza. It's the war itself. Under the plan, Arab and Muslim countries have committed, and in writing in many cases, but I actually would take their word for it. The people I mentioned, I'd take their word for it. To demilitarize Gaza, and that's quickly. Decommission the military capabilities of Hamas and all other terror organizations. Do that immediately. And we're relying on the countries that I named and others to deal with Hamas. And I'm hearing that Hamas wants to get this done too, and that's a good thing. And destroy all terror infrastructure, including the tunnels, weapons of production facilities. They have a lot of production facilities that we're destroying. They'll also help train local police forces in the areas we're discussing right now, in particular in and around Gaza, working with the new transitional authority in Gaza. All parties will agree on a timeline for Israeli forces to withdraw in phases. They'll be withdrawing in phases. No more shooting, hopefully. As progress is made toward achieving these goals, Arab and Muslim nations need to be allowed the chance to fulfill these commitments of dealing with Hamas. They have to deal with them because they were the one group that we have not dealt with. I haven't dealt with them. But the Arab countries are going to, and Muslim countries are going to be dealing with Hamas, and I believe they've already been there. I think they probably have an understanding, and they haven't maybe mentioned that, but I would imagine they do. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gone as far as they've gone. If they're unable to do so, then Israel would have the absolute right and actually our full backing, the U.S. full backing. Marco's here, and a lot of our leaders are here, our great vice president, Susie Wiles, Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner. They've been so involved in this process. I don't think anybody else could have done it or even come close. But it's we're right there. We're right there. First time in thousands of years, I think you can probably say, if you really look into it, if you study back, if you're a scholar.
The idea that Donald Trump has ever studied anything is laughably stupid.
You would say,
all right, chat. This is too much more. It seems to me that fundamentally this is a proposal that is the same shit they've been saying for years, where it's like Hamas surrender and then Israel does whatever they want, and then if not, we're going to genocide the Palestinians. All right, everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I want to throw you my links. This is where you'll get more content. We'll be back. If you're new to the stream, we'll be back tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. I am on camera, okay? The stream will go live before that, but I am on camera, 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern. I am on camera, okay? So make sure you're here. Welcome to all the new viewers. Stay safe out there. Solidarity forever, my friends, and I will see you all soon. I'm sending you over to Vio. Vio is the brain rot you need to clear the brain rot you got from politics. Vio, you know her from the infamous Sabra Hummus panel, where she was just an egg. So please go out of the way to support one of the many victims of the Zionist harassment on this platform. Vio was just an egg. Dennis was also on that panel. Didn't do anything wrong. It got banned. Please consider continuing the Sabra stream right on over, the anti-Sabra streams, right on over to Vio. Thanks so much for all your support, guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Stay safe out there. Solidarity forever, my friends. And of course, free Palestine from the river